the episodes starting. So I guess my big question is do Melissa, are you a Star Wars person too?
I am.
Are you doing anything for May the 4th?
It's a work day. I don't think I'm really doing anything. My mom bought me a gift for Star Wars Day though.
Yeah?
Nice.
Yeah, she's a cool mom, and like we went shopping the other day and she knew she probably wouldn't see me tomorrow, so she in one of my bags of stuff that I bought, she just slipped in a t-shirt that says May the Force be with you. And so it
Oh,
went to unpack my groceries and I was like, "Oh, what the hell? Where did this come from?" So yeah,
nice.
but I'm not actually gonna like do anything, but yeah. And also when I go around telling people May the Fourth be with you, it's like I grew up Catholic, and that's a little like may how like at mass you do the peace offering, you're like may peace be with you. Like when I say May the Fourth be with you, it just reminds me too much of of
Totally.
the the peace greeting, and so I'm a
Well,
little free of
and
it overall.
I actually think we should combine it and have a big mega holiday with May the 4th and Cinco de Mayo brought to us by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Uh, and everybody celebrate their unique heritage, and the nerds and the Mexicans get together, and we all have a big Force fiesta. So, uh,
Okay.
yeah. With that, let's begin our ninth episode of Who Virgin. Uh,
Number nine. Number nine. That's a Beatles joke. Never mind.
no, I was actually you made it before I did, so
Nice.
way to go. Our ninth episode, and with me, as always, is Mark. Hi, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest, Miss Melissa Martinez. Thanks for being here.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Tell people about you?
Sure. My name is Melissa. I am a freelance writer and copy editor. Um, I've known Marco. That's how I met Andy for quite a while now, and we like a lot of the same things, even though we don't always agree about those things necessarily. But we respect each other's opinions, so that's good. And yeah, so I'm just happy to be here yapping about stuff I love.
So first of all, a small moment of silence for the San Antonio Spurs.
Ah, jeez.
Uh,
That's
And and second, I want to say I'm really excited to have Melissa on here because I had to beg to get Rebecca and Brian to join us, but you just flat out asked us and said, "Hey, when can I be on here?" And I want everyone listening to know, we want to accommodate you. If you ask and you want to be on, and we think you're cool, we would love to have you on the podcast. Just email me at citizenbot@BigShinyRobot, or find us on Facebook at WhoVirgin, or on Twitter at WhoVirgin, and find us and message me. And it literally is just as simple as that. If we think you're cool, we'll have you on here. And Melissa is definitely cool. I think we always need more voices, especially women's voices on this podcast. I don't want it to be just a sausage fest of me and Mark talking every week about Doctor Who. That would get boring. So thank you for being here. And the best thing that I love about Melissa is we always get to fight a little bit, and I think that level of contention raises the bar for our discussion. So thank you for always bringing very informed, intelligent opinions, even if about 90% of the time you're wrong.
uh, we'll
yeah,
see.
I push it to 95, but that's just
That's
me.
Uh,
Yep. That's how it's gonna be, Melissa. We're not holding anything back. So
Less 5 minutes already my pressers. I swear.
oh, you can hold your own though, which is great, and that's why we want to have you here. Uh, e- so there was actually some big Who news this week, and we found out some casting for this upcoming season, and that is that Little Miss Maisie Williams is going to be joining the cast of Doctor
Yeah.
Who for an undisclosed role. Um, Maisie Williams, if you don't know, is on Game of Thrones. She plays Arya Stark. She is my favorite character on Game of Thrones. Uh, I am really excited about this. If I wasn't excited about watching Doctor Who before, I think Maisie Williams would have brought me in. I guess the question is, who would she be playing, or who might she be playing? And so, Mark and Melissa, what do you like about Maisie Williams, and what do you want to see her do on Doctor Who?
Well, I think it's just a one-off guest spot. At least that's what I understand it to be. I just hope whatever she plays, it'll be a good part, because Stephen Moffat, who's the EP of Doctor Who and head writer and all that, he tends to have problems with his characterizations of women, in my opinion, and not all of them, but I have issues with some of them. As much as I love Doctor Who, and so it would be nice if she was really central to the plot and not, just another device to spur the Doctor on or something.
I'd have to completely disagree with that because Moffat's actually made some very strong female characters. River Song became stronger under him, and the fact that Amy Pond was such a central character to the Doctor himself in his life gives so much more weight to Amy Pond as an individual than anybody else that's been created for the Doctor Who world. So I think Moffat's made female characters stronger, not weaker. And look at Clara. She's so important that an iteration of Clara has been around for every single iteration of the Doctor, helping to prop him up. So Moffat's made female characters much stronger than Russell T Davies ever did. So I definitely have to disagree with that.
Well, I wasn't meaning to compare him to Russell T Davies, but the problems I have, I guess, with a lot of the women in Doctor Who, particularly the companions, not so much the guest stars, because those are one-off things, and it's not 1 hour isn't exactly enough to get deep into character or anything. We don't expect her to be all of a sudden, some kind of a really well laid out characterization. You can't do that in an hour. But for people who are there multiple seasons, they basically they're in service of the Doctor and they sacrifice a lot. I mean, you have, Clara sacrificed herself basically at the end of the series before this.
To save time.
Right, but her only real everything is in service to the Doctor. She struggles in her life. They all struggle in their life away from the Doctor because of him. But he can't travel alone, which is something that, of course, we know they kind of hit us over the head with that throughout the series. He shouldn't travel alone because then that invites his more dark side to come out.
Right.
And that's understandable. Solitude will do that to a person. But like Amy Pond, okay, her big characterization is that she's sassy. She's got a smart mouth. Beyond that, we don't see a whole lot deeper into that. And don't even get me started on her pregnancy. That the baby was taken away from her. Device. It was.
I'm going to stop you there because Andy hasn't seen it, so we need.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
we need to keep it spoiler-free for Andy and everybody else.
That's okay. I mean, there are some of these that are not spoilers to me because I already have heard them. I know other people have talked about them, so don't worry about that. I'm interested in where this discussion's going, though. So, Melissa, continue.
Okay.
Well, it's these women. Okay, I understand that it's the job of the companion to kind of help the Doctor or even serve him, but the way it kind of ruins their lives.
Right.
In all of them. I mean, I actually cried at the end of Donna Noble, okay, because that was the most tragic one of all,
Right. I agree.
And it just never ends well for them. I'm not saying to have happy endings with, everything tied up with a pretty bow and ribbons and whatever, but it's
right. The thing is, okay, and I agree with that. The companions always end with a horrible fate. Every single one of them. But what the point I'm making is that Moffat makes the companion more than just a companion. Under Moffat's direction, the companion is the moral center of the Doctor. Where if you take the companion away, the Doctor will act differently, and the results will probably be a lot darker than what we ever saw them. And once again, without Clara, we don't have a reset in time. So there's a lot more weight to the female characters. But I do agree for a large part of Doctor Who's history, the companions can be cast away. But with Amy Pond, she chose she chose the end. She didn't sacrifice herself for the Doctor. This was Amy's choice, which gives her more gravitas than the rest of the companions, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, let me jump in here, and maybe I'm wrong because I haven't seen any of this, but this is sending up like multiple red flags for me in terms of this sounds like a lot of the trope of the self-sacrificing woman who is there, to be there to save a man, to provide a moral compass to him to balance out his anger and his aggression and that's supposed to be a kind of noble sexism, but it's still, I don't know, reinforces something that isn't good. I want to see characters who can be badasses too, which is one of the reasons why I like Arya Stark so much, because she is very noble. Her entire house, that house is full of noble people, but look at where their nobility took them. And her mom and she both understand that you gotta play in the dirt a little bit and get your hands dirty to further the good in the world, and that just being a noble person's gonna get you killed. So I really like Arya, and she feels like a real strong female character, trademark Joss Whedon. Um, you know that that is something that is actually real, not just what Melissa's point that they are there in service of the Doctor. I can see how that is troubling,
But
and
that's not okay. And it's kind of hard to talk about this because you haven't seen at least up until the first season of the Doctor 10, Matt Smith. But no, they're not in service of the Doctor at all, and they don't sacrifice him. They have been sacrificed unwittingly, and the Doctor not wanting their sacrifice, but it had to have been done, and you'll see why in the stories. But Amy Pond was never. She. It's not like he chose her. This happened by accident. And we're going to cover one of the episodes about the fireplace, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
right. That's going to show you what happens with Amy Pond, sort of. Whereas the Doctor meets someone and then he sees them again. But for him, it's just, hey, I was gone for 5 minutes. But, in this case, decades go by. That is Pond's situation. There's so much more to her. And I get the criticism about, because she's such a pretty person. She's a beautiful woman, and I think
yeah.
a lot of people want to reduce it to, well, of course he's gonna pick her because she's freaking hot. She's this damsel in distress. But it's nothing like that at all. And once you see at least the first season of the 10th Doctor, I think you'll understand why. The 11th Doctor.
I'm interested to get there, but Melissa, I want to let you have the final word on this. Any final thoughts before we move on to this week's episodes?
Well, we could. I mean, I could go on for ages. I'm not saying that Doctor Who is a sexist show. It's not.
Yeah.
There's concern about how the women are portrayed, because everything they do, they never stand alone, and you get the feeling that everything they do is like something to spur on the Doctor into action. They don't have the kind of character. I mean, somebody who's been on a show for 2 or 3 seasons we should know more about them. But we only know very basic traits like, oh, they're sassy, because that's what he sort of, he being Stephen Moffat, that's sort of his stock and trade. He makes them kind of, sassy. And don't even get me started on his characterizations in Sherlock. I mean, the man has
Jeez.
a history of not knowing how to write women who are not either doormats, whose strength only comes from their vaginas, or who.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me right now, Mary?
Or who
You think you think she's just a welcome mat to be stepped on? Mary shoots Sherlock.
Yeah, and then look, she's fake, right? She was pretending to be one thing, and she's a freaking assassin.
How is that not badass? Are you kidding me?
Because she's fake. Because she's a liar.
She had everyone fooled, including this uber genius Sherlock. Are you kidding me?
Makes her good that she had people fooled, that she's a con artist.
That's what assassins do.
So, but that's a good female characterization.
Well, that's a good characterization of assassins.
But look at the rest of the females in Sherlock.
Ooh, what's her name? The one that constantly dupes him. Oh, I forget her name.
The woman. I can't remember her name, but yeah, she's just the woman.
She's smarter than he is. She's cleverer than he is. She gets under his skin. The only woman to have done that.
The only person, like
right.
Moriarty, nothing. Like she is the only person who is Sherlock on that show. But yeah, I can kind of agree though. But like I look at Sherlock though, and you're like, Moffat doesn't write female characters well, and I'm like, what female characters?
Yeah.
Like there's like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, I'll give you that argument.
Yeah, I mean, the one, like, quote unquote strong character, female character, in all 3 series of Sherlock so far was a sex worker. All her power came from her vagina. All her being naked.
I know. I will argue against that all day.
She fell in love with him and ended up getting, duped by him because she fell in love. So
Well, the lesson is don't fall in love with Sherlock.
Well, that's a good lesson because he is kind of
got Asperger's.
Yeah,
Don't fall in love with him.
I don't think you want to fall in love with Sherlock. So
he's a jerk.
Women, men like that, because he's a jerk. He will. I mean, he's a sociopath, and admitted, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Sociopath.
Yep.
Why would you want to fall in love with him?
I guess these are the same women who like get prison pen pals or something, or I don't know. I don't.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, that's a good place to end this discussion. You two have not disappointed me at the level of what we were going to bring to this episode, so thank you very much. Let's talk about School Reunion, the first episode I saw. First of all, I was super excited to see Anthony Stewart Head. Out last week after Tooth and Claw, when I saw he was going to be on the next episode, I almost went forward because I'm like, oh, it's Anthony Stewart Head. I want to watch that, and I'm glad I saved it for this week.
Hellmouth? I can't wait for Hellmouth throughout the whole episode. They never revealed it. Oh well.
Exactly. It was a little too on the nose having him as a school principal. But
he's good at those parts, those kind of educator, headmaster types.
Did you know that he had turned down the role of Doctor Who? And that's why we have David Tennant as the Doctor. He had turned it down.
Really?
He should have been the Doctor, which is kind of weird that they gave him this episode.
Huh.
I guess maybe he was regretting it, or
what's the backstory behind that? Why did he turn it down? Do you know anything more?
God, I don't. It's been such a long time ago. I don't remember much about it, but I remember, and it's openly discussed that he was offered the role, but he turned it down.
I guess he really wanted to be on Merlin. I don't
know.
Probably. So, the other thing that I thought was interesting about this was they were trying to solve this equation that I can't remember I can't remember what it was called, but for me, all I was thinking
Oh
of
yeah.
was the life and death equation from Superman that that Darkseid is always going after. So I don't know what I guess uh, like if you could figure out an equation that solved everything for all of humanity, would you do that? Is that a I don't know. That sounds kind of cool. That was a cool offer that they made to the doctor.
That's what Einstein died doing.
Yeah.
Until his last day, he was trying to find the theory of everything. I think it was called. I think he was calling it the theory of everything.
Yeah, a grand unified theory of everything. And and Hawking has tried to tackle that too.
Right.
Lots of people have, but I don't know. I think that's interesting. If you could figure out life, the universe, and everything in a single equation, have power over space, time, matter, energy. Um, I mean, they offered to let the doctor in at the ground floor, and that seemed pretty tempting. I don't know. I might take the bat creatures and Anthony Stewart Head up on that offer.
To know everything.
Yeah, to know. Well, I mean, no, but if you understood the equation behind everything, you could manipulate space, time, matter, energy. You could. I mean, you're basically a god at that point. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would turn dark if I would go to the dark side if I had that power. I think like I know myself too well. I think it's better to say no.
Well, then,
They say power corrupts, right? And when you have that kind of
Well,
power,
that's true.
imagine the corruption. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this would be a bad idea for me.
Dick Cheney would be in so much trouble with me.
yeah. See,
He'd be my first visit. I'm like, hey, Dickie boy.
I like to think that I would be a playful god. Um,
Not a
that
trickster.
Yeah, not necessarily a trickster, but I would like mete out justice in like a very odd manner. Um, like I don't think I mean, power corrupts and I'd probably do some bad things, but no, I'd almost surely do some bad things, but I would hope that it would be like in the pursuit of broader noble goals. Like I'd go after Dick Cheney. I'd go after the Koch brothers. I'd go
But,
after people who are actually like oppressing native peoples in the Amazon and
but like, what would
uh,
you do? Like to Dick Cheney, would you turn him into a dairy cow for the rest of his life?
no, that would
So
be
he
too
has to get
good.
his teats milked and inseminated.
No, no, that's
Like,
probably too
what
good.
kind of weird way are you talking about?
I don't know, like something truly like Greek, like give him like like the tortures that were put on like Tantalus and like Charybdis and
Oh,
those guys
all right.
like down in the underworld. Like, here's a rock you have to roll up a hill. You gotta do
That
that
was
for eternity. I don't know what it would be for
that's
Cheney.
too tame.
Maybe like his heart explodes every day or something. Um, oh, what did they do to on Angel, uh, the the bad lawyer Lindsay who goes to hell and he's being punished by the senior partners from Wolfram and Hart, and he's like living in suburbia, and then at like noon every day he like gets taken into a torture chamber and they remove all of his organs or something, and then he wakes up the next day and it's the same thing. I don't know. It would be something like that.
Y'all are very specific about these punishments. It's a little scary. I gotta.
No, I'd have to sit and think. I'd have to sit and think. But if I had power over stuff like that, the first thing I'd do would be like make sure everyone has clean water and like figure out a way to have like uh a clean source of energy for everyone so that we don't have to like burn fossil fuels and have pollution and like solve like major world problems like that. Like I'd set about doing those things first, and then I'd like go meeting out like specific justice on people. Or maybe I'd just like make Daredevil real. Be like, Daredevil, you're now here with us in our world, and you get to go and mete out street justice for me.
That would be awesome. Did we lose?
Exactly. Yeah, we lost Mark for a minute. He'll join back in a second, I think. So, uh, what
Let's,
about what about you, Melissa? Do you think you'd have? Yeah, that's oddly specific. Do you think you'd do something like that?
well, I would have to think long and hard about a Dick Cheney punishment. But he definitely needs something because that boy ain't right. But I don't know. Yeah, all joking aside about me turning into some dark overlord, I would hope that I would be a benevolent person if I had power, but I don't know. Don't know. Um, but yeah, I would try it, but my fear would be that eventually it would, corrupt. And then there's the whole like DC complex, like from Game of Thrones, where she frees these slaves and she's doing all these altruistic things and doesn't realize that there's more to it than just taking their chains off. There's a lot more to it, and now she's paying that price.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's just so much to it. I mean, it's complicated.
Yeah, Daenerys Targaryen is a great liberator, not so much a great ruler.
Yeah, he's really dropping this season.
Yeah. Uh, let's move on to the next episode and talk about the girl in the fireplace. This was this was very odd. This felt very different to me because it was like it felt very disconnected from the rest of Doctor Who. It's like suddenly they're on this spaceship and they're stuck in time. Whoa, hang on a second.
Ooh, I'm just
Okay.
Good. Something weird happened. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
I kind of got kicked out for a little bit. Did we talk about Sarah Jane Smith at all?
No, we didn't. We totally didn't talk about that. So, we'll just pretend this all didn't happen, and I'll edit back out. Yeah. So let's talk about Sarah Jane Smith and K9.
Okay. So this episode connected Classic Who with New Who. Sarah Jane Smith is probably one of the most popular companions, and it's probably one of the first companions I came across with when I was a kid watching Doctor Who. So it was kind of cool seeing her back again, because you hardly ever see the Doctor reconnect with old companions, and the reaction that the Doctor had when he saw Sarah Jane Smith was priceless. And K9 was something that was pretty cool when I was a kid. I always wanted a K9 growing up. I thought that was completely awesome. So to see him again was priceless. I thought it was, and he is kind of cutesy the way he talks, and he's just a stupid little robot dog. But it brought a smile to my face.
I like the cute little robot dog. I mean, come on, he's a dog. If you're gonna have a robot dog, he's gonna be cute like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or, I don't know. He's better than the Daggets from classic Battlestar Galactica. Those were dumb. Those were dumb robot dogs. These were cool robot dogs.
Or Twinkie from Buck Rogers. I always hated him.
Yeah. So which Doctor was she associated with?
Tom Baker, mostly.
Okay. Oh, so she spanned different Doctors. So
Yeah, if I remember, I don't think she continued with Peter Davison, but was she with what's his name, Sean Pertwee before? I don't remember, but I mostly remember her with Tom Baker.
Yeah, and she has her own series too.
Right, but spun off from this episode.
Really?
Chronicles, yeah.
The Adventures of Sarah Jane.
Right, sorry. I'm getting my shows mixed up, yeah.
Is
like
it
4 seasons or something, right, Marco?
It didn't last too long because sadly, shortly afterwards, maybe it was 3 or 4 seasons, she was diagnosed with cancer and she passed away.
Oh.
Which really sucked. Really, really sucked. Because I was really into it and I was really liking it. And it seemed like the Doctor Who universe was expanding because by then Torchwood came up as well. So I was one happy little geek for a while. But then she passed on and now we don't have Torchwood. And we're back to just having Doctor Who.
is that something that is worth me checking out at some point, or is it just like, it's minutia? If you're really into Doctor Who, you should check it out, or
I don't know how to answer that because I enjoyed it, and since I'm really into the Doctor Who universe, this was fun for me. But I don't know how the regular passing Doctor Who fan is going to feel about it. But I really liked it,
I
and
think.
it's female centered, so Melissa should like it. Let's see what she says.
oh
Jaggers had come out.
For completion's sake, I would say yes, watch it. But I don't think that your knowledge or enjoyment of Who is going to be affected by not watching it.
okay.
Fair enough.
I think that's the fairest way to put it. But yeah, totally watch it at some point. But I wouldn't say now. I would say you could wait till you're caught up with all the seasons. And I would put Torchwood first too, because that does have some more connections. But yeah, totally watch it. And
Yeah,
not
I think
centric, Marco, because it's good.
I like it. I really liked it.
yeah, I don't think that should be like, it's a female centric show, ergo good. It's not female centric, ergo bad. It's like there's plenty.
Oh, is that getting into the whole Sarah Palin thing? Do we vote for her because she's a woman, or do we not vote for her because she's a moron? Like it's just it's one of those things. It shouldn't be about that, But it is nice to have a woman at the forefront who is central to the plot of a good, well-made show.
Yeah, so like I definitely like, I don't know, there are definitely like female led shows that I really, well, you mentioned the Sarah Connor Chronicles, kind of by accident. I loved that show. I thought
That
that
was
was
good.
great. I wish they'd kept on with that universe. It felt like they were actually doing something cool with Terminator. But
I wish you would have kept on with Dollhouse. I was really into Dollhouse.
Dollhouse was great. Yeah, so it's all unfortunate. One of these years we'll get, well, we're gonna get a Supergirl TV show, and that'll be pretty cool. Hopefully that is, if it continues the same sort of trajectory that Arrow and Flash are doing, then I expect that it will be very good. So, um, Girl in the Fireplace. So this was interesting. This felt like the first episode that was really different from all of the rest of Doctor Who. It was set off quite a bit, and I don't quite know what to make of it. So I'm interested in what both of you think about it.
Um, let's. I guess. Yeah, you're right. It's very different. I loved this because it showed the mortality of the Doctor, or the immortality, I should say, about how time passes him by so quick, and he doesn't realize exactly how quick it passes. For him, it's just minutes, seconds, but for the people that depend on him or the people that wait for him, it goes by, a lot longer. So he meets this girl in the fireplace and comes back to the crew. And then when he goes back to the fireplace, all of a sudden she's like 15 years old. So like, what, 10 years have passed? And each time he goes to the fireplace, a big chunk of time has gone by. But like I said, for him, it's just minutes, seconds. But for everybody else, it's just this long chunk of time has gone by. We see that with Sarah Jane in the previous episode, where he's looking at her, he can't believe he's seeing her again, but she's much older now, and he can't involve himself in her life anymore. So I think this episode embodies that. But we also see Rose kind of freaking out because it looks like he might have an attachment with this new person. She may or may not be the new companion, and Rose doesn't like this, and I kind of like that.
It's for once the jealousy is on the other end and not
Right.
with Ricky Mickey, which we'll get to Ricky Mickey in a second.
Ricky
But
Mickey.
I kind of love this episode. I really love that it sort of hinted at some of the consequences of time travel, which they don't always address, during their adventures. But for me, when they do, I mean, and I don't want them to mention these things or go over these things every episode, of course, because that would take away from it. But when they do sort of hint at these things or even just go all out about them, I always find that fascinating, because consequences and paradoxes, for me, that's kind of like the marrow of time travel stories. That's what I really enjoy. And here we talk about how, that he can be gone for years, but, it could be minutes to others or years to others. It just depends. And that's always something that's kind of fascinated me about this show. And you'll see that with some of the companions later, like, that becomes an issue for Amy and Rory. That becomes an issue for Clara. It's how it affects you, even just physically, being gone for so long and then being put back into your present day minutes after you left, even though you've been gone for quite a while, so little things like that when they hint towards that. And I also loved Sophia Myles as an actress, so I was really happy to see her in this episode. So
I'm smitten with her.
I have no other frame of reference with her. So, is there something I should know her from, or just this episode?
Well, there was a really kind of sort of silly vampire show a while back on CBS, but it was during the writer's strike, that year that the writer's strike happened.
Oh, yeah.
And so it got shafted, like they cut the episode order and it just ended up kind of getting canceled. It was called Moonlight, and I kind of liked it because, before there was like this vampire mania that we got with like Twilight and all that.
Yeah.
I've always, since the first time I read Bram Stoker's Dracula when I was a little girl, I've just been fascinated with vampires. Now it's just like everywhere and kind of watered down. And apparently sparkly if you're into Twilight.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Right? But it was called Moonlight. I guess there was like maybe 16 episodes, but I really loved her character in that. And so when I saw her again, I was like, oh, look, she's from Moonlight. So, it always helps. I mean, it didn't matter who they put in that role. I would have liked this episode, but it's nice that it was her.
That's cool. There were so many great shows that got destroyed because of the writer's strike. The Sarah Connor Chronicles is one of those.
Right.
Especially a lot of really great genre shows. There was a show called Journeyman about time travel that was going some really cool places, that it was gone after the writer's strike. They just couldn't keep the momentum up. That's just such a terrible, terrible time. Come on, Hollywood, pay your people well and don't make them strike. Come on. Anything else about the girl in the fireplace?
Man.
No? Okay. What else is there? Okay. One final thought is the doctor crashing through a window on a horse. And
That's very cool.
I'll leave it with that.
That's kind of cool.
Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel. So the Cybermen existed previous to this, or I kind of get, but explain to me how that works.
They've been around since the second Doctor, I believe. And I strongly encourage you to visit some of those episodes because they looked ridiculous. It was horrible. It's basically cardboard box bodies with houses on their legs. Just horrible. But every time the Cybermen would come up, their shape would change somehow. So every iteration of the Cybermen has improved, and it makes sense because they constantly are trying to perfect humanity and perfect themselves. So what we have right now is like Cyberman 30.6, I guess, whatever. They've improved themselves to this point. But what I liked about these two episodes is that it's an old enemy that has come back from the classic Who series. An enemy that the Doctor's familiar with, and that he struggled with for years, and an enemy he thought that he wouldn't have to mess with anymore, based on the Time Wars and whatnot. So once again, we've come back to this theme, Andy, where he made this gigantic sacrifice, but all for what? Apparently not for much, because he's still struggling with the same thing. There's still the presence of evil, because I guess there has to be, or
Well, but he is in a parallel universe, so I mean, he would also expect that in said parallel universe, Daleks might also exist,
right, right.
or other Time Lords might exist. So, but he knows that he doesn't belong there. So I don't know. Um, uh, what?
Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten that they were sucked into the void, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen this, but I remember that now.
Yeah, so they're in a parallel universe, and that's where the whole Ricky Mickey thing comes up, because
That's true.
he's got his double there, who's kind of a badass, and then when he's killed by the Cybermen, he decides to stay behind and take over other his other universe's persona, which I totally don't understand. Although I kind of do, because he's like, "Oh, I'm the dog. I'm the tin dog who stays in the car, and
Right.
here I can actually be something." I'm like, "What do you mean here you can be something? It's like you're
nothing.
you're kind of a poser, like pretending you're most wanted, running around with some street toughs, and like, yeah, you're all thinking about how you're sweet and revolutionary, but really you're, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. It just seemed an easy way to write him off the show, is what it seemed like.
I don't know how you and Melissa feel about this, but and it's all coming back to me. One of the things that annoys me about movies and shows with parallel universes is that they assume that we're going to have all the same connections. Like in Parallel Earth 25, I'm still going to be friends with Andy, but you're going to be a total jerk and whatever. But somehow we're still friends. That kind of stuff kind of annoys me. I don't know what you guys think.
Melissa?
I guess I haven't thought about that a whole lot enough to get annoyed, but you're right. I mean, if there's a parallel universe and certain things are different, then that would affect everything else and make other things different. And so the details would, at least some of them, you figure would be changed, and not just that one thing that they need
Right.
changed in order to fulfill the plot requirements. You know what I mean? But in order to have that level of detail, it would have to be a television show, because let's face it, a 90-minute movie isn't enough time to really establish all that minutia, but yeah, I mean, yeah, you're kind of right. Yeah.
I don't know. In a 22-minute episode of Futurama, the Farnsworth Paradox, they went through all of the different universes pretty easily and figured out the differences between Blue Zoidberg and Red Zoidberg and Goldbender and Silverbender.
It's Futurama, buddy. You're not strengthening your case.
Futurama is great. I love that
I
show.
love Futurama, but we're
show
talking
so
about
much.
Futurama, man.
Yeah, I know.
But the other thing is that I see my dead dad, and all of a sudden I just want to be with my dead dad. Like, well, no. If I were to see my dead any relative that I was close to in my world, and he or she's living, yeah, I'm gonna take a few steps back and try not to freak out, because that's just what I'm trying to get is it's not the appropriate response to where I see my dead father, I want to hug him and be his daughter. Like, I don't like stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Rose, this is hinting at some like very real uh, daddy issues, essentially. Like she feels like this was robbed from her, and so she's almost kind of, I don't know, fetishizing it, and it's like the one thing she wants so much, and it does seem like kind of like an easy way to move the plot forward. Like that's gonna be the thing in both this and the previous episode where she tries to save her dad, that's her motivation. But I don't know. I could see how not growing up without a father might mess you up a little bit, but it wouldn't. I don't know. I can't think of anyone who I've lost from my life where if I was in a parallel universe where they still existed, I would do anything more than just like go and give them a hug and tell them how much they mean to me rather than like and try
Still,
and say goodbye.
still,
You
that's
know?
kind of creepy, man. I mean, that's just. I would creep out at something like that.
I'm kind of in between. I feel like, it is a little creepy that she keeps going back to, like, she didn't learn her lesson with
Right.
Eccleston episode, which I love, by the way, because Paradox, I mean, I mentioned earlier that that's always interesting to me.
Yeah.
Um, but and also speaking of Eccleston, really quickly, are you sad, Marco, that we never got to see his doctor handle the
Oh
cyber? Right?
God, you have no idea how much I hate that we only had one season with him.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we missed out. I would love to see him with the Weeping Angels and like,
Yes.
oh, I would have loved that. Yeah. Unlike a lot of other female Whovians, my like Doctor Love starts with Matt Smith and then goes to Eccleston, really close number two, and then we go to 10. Like, but everybody else I know, they're like, oh, number 10, he's so dreamy, and I'm just like, yeah, not that I don't like Tennant, I do, but it's, Eccleston is up there though, you know what I'm saying? And I really wish we could have seen him in a Cyberman and episode. But anyway, back to what we were saying about the whole daddy issue thing. I think you're absolutely right, and that's exactly where my head went when I first saw this episode. It's like, again, we're doing this again with her, but which, I mean, she's a teenager, so of course she's going to be impulsive a little bit. She's like 19, right? I mean,
Is she? I thought she was in her 20s.
no, I thought she was like 19, maybe 20.
Well, it's Jackie's 40th birthday. So either Jackie had her when she was under 20 or Rose is under 20. It's
I'm pretty sure she's
one of
like,
those two things.
at least I thought at this point she was like 19 or something. I thought she was like fresh out of the British version of high school, whatever that is. I don't know. I think I swear I got that impression from the pilot.
Well, she was working at she was working as a waitress somewhere. Um,
In the shop
Yeah, she was
yeah.
working in a
with
shop.
pins.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I suppose you can still do both, like work at a shop and go to high school. But I always felt that she was in her 20s.
Yeah, no, I thought she was out of school, but I thought she was around 19ish. But either way, she's young. Either way, 19, 20, there's not much difference. I mean, she's young and she's going to be kind of impulsive. And let's face it, her mom, not the best role model in terms of impulse control.
Jackie.
Um, and so yeah, and look at like Mickey, who, okay, anytime Mickey shows up in an episode, I'm already like, ugh, I really like him too much. I like episodes despite Mickey, not because of him. But he's a disappointment. He's just, he's not very useful. And even in the pilot, she she says thank you, and he's like, for what? She's like, exactly, because he's kind of useless a little bit, and so she didn't have a dad. Her boyfriend's kind of useless. I guess I can understand why she'd want to try and revisit that a little bit, that in her youth, and maybe not being not having enough wisdom yet, not having lived enough life to know better. I think Marco and I, we can sit here and say, well, that would be creepy, but we're in our late 30s,
Yeah.
We've lived a lot of life. We got to remember, she's young. And I did stupid things when I was 19, really stupid things.
Right. I did stupid things up until my very late 30s. But the thing is, like, I lost my grandfather when I was 18, and he was very, very, very close to me. He didn't get to see me graduate from high school, and all that stuff hurt for such a long time. But I think if I were to go to a parallel universe and see him, I would automatically know that's not my grandfather. It's not the same person. So me hugging somebody that has no idea who the heck I am would probably feel too cold and confusing. And I don't understand why more people wouldn't react that way. Of course, this is just a personal opinion. Maybe people think I'm crazy and cold-hearted for not feeling that way when I see the return of a loved one. But I would just think this person doesn't know me. This person's too different. Why would I want to go hug this person?
Well,
It doesn't make sense to me.
real quick, because you said that you mentioned just now that you think that people would think you're cold for saying that. I don't think so necessarily, but let me ask you something. You basically what you're saying is that you wouldn't want to go see your grandpa because he'd be a different person because it's a parallel universe, right?
Right, right.
Well, it was our universe and you were just time traveling and he was the same person.
Well, yeah, well, that's different. This is why I understood Rose's reaction to seeing her father in the past, right before he died. I understood her reluctance to just leave, and I understood her wanting to save his life. I get that, and that's her dad from this earth. But we're talking about a parallel universe who it's a completely different person who never knew you existed. It's just I don't understand those motivations in that aspect.
I think that just makes you more of a, I don't want to say calculating because that has bad connotations sometimes. But you're just more
realistic.
Yeah, I'm looking for that I can't think of right now. But yeah, it just even when it hurts, you're gonna do the thing that you think is the best, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense and it's not the emotional response. But that doesn't make you cold. That just makes you
practical.
Yeah, practical. I think that's probably the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Nice job, Spock. Thanks. Yeah. No, so on the very first episode of Who Virgin, Mark, you originally said that you like the idea of parallel universes because that means there's a parallel universe where you're Batman.
Right.
Melissa, in the very best parallel universe out there, who are you?
Like if I could be anyone?
Yeah, there's a parallel universe out there. What's the very best version of you that's out there?
Oh man. Wow, you're gonna have to give me a minute on that one.
Okay. I was thinking about this. The very best parallel universe version of me, I am probably vice president to Obama right now. Biden died and I got called up.
Awesome.
That's my favorite. And then I could, essentially play out something that is like the halfway point between House of Cards and Veep. It's a lot more funny like Veep, but we're also kicking a lot of butt like on House of Cards.
In this parallel universe, have we already switched from oil and coal to solar and wind?
Well, we're on our way.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, we're at like the 30-40%.
Because that I would so expect that from you as VP.
Yeah,
VP president. You don't think VP is kind of a neutered position a little bit?
No.
Not in the parallel universe where I'm VP now.
Marco and I are talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's going to be my turn to be president right after that, and then we'll get all the way there. So
nice.
You will if you become president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you come up with a good answer yet, or should we take a break and you can give us your answer on the other end of the break?
Okay, that'll work.
Okay, so we're going to take a break for some short ads and meet us back, and we're going to talk about Avengers: Age of Ultron. We've been talking a lot about robots, so we're going to talk more about robots, and join us then. Okay, take a breather.
Man, I might have some controversial statements about Age of Ultron.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you both have them?
Do we both have?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to save it for when we.
Oh, okay.
But
opinions. I don't think any of them are controversial exactly, but I don't know, the way Marco fought me about the female thing earlier, we might be going again. I have a feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a slight bone to pick with Whedon about a certain character. Well, and it's not even that character's fault, and there's not much you can do with that character. But I felt it followed a traditional trope, and that stung a little because usually Whedon is so much more progressive than sticking with traditional tropes. But that's just a slight thing I have about it. I have other opinions that may rattle some cages. I don't know, maybe.
I wanna talk about Black Widow in this movie because I think there's a lot to talk about with her specifically, and I've had a lot of good conversations. Like, is she better in this movie? Is she worse in this movie? Um, and which is why I'm really glad SNL did that thing. Okay,
I gotta
so
see.
okay, do you want to take a second and watch it?
Sure.
Okay,
Where is it? I mean, what's it
it's
called?
on. Just look up on YouTube SNL Black Widow trailer.
I'll be right back, gentlemen.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, it's right here. Chill. No way. No way. Boy drunk. An effeminate Thor. It's so awesome. Penis activity. This is ridiculous. Oh, that's
You doing here? You know how much that job meant to me? Do you even know what my favorite fruit is? Thank you.
Oh my god, this is horrible. That was horrible.
I know, right? But it's exactly what I wanted to see in that. It's like, you know, yeah. We'll talk about that.
Right.
Okay. So we ready?
Yep.
Yes, this segment brought to you by Melissa's Black Screen.
No, I actually have a sponsorship I need to read out. So, yeah, we've got a okay. We'll do this. And welcome back to the second half of the Who Virgin podcast. Thanks for making it with us here. This second half is brought to us by the second annual Big Shiny Robot and Salt Lake Comic Con Nerd Swap Meet in Salt Lake City. sponsored by us at Big Shiny Robot. Uh, Sunday, May 31st from 2 to 7 p.m. at the Bohemian Brewery at 94 East, 7200 South in Salt Lake City. Go check that out. Go buy some comics from Brian Young. Go buy some collectibles. Pick up some secondhand Ghostbusters stuff from Lucas. Buy some Pogs from the Hello Sweetie girls. Just bring some cash and make sure you go on one of their brewery tours. Grab a bratwurst and have a lot of fun. Sunday, May 31st from 2 to 7 p.m. at the Bohemian Brewery. I will not be there, but everyone else will. But make sure that you are there. Great. We had our review last week with me and Brian Swankmotron talking about what we thought about Avengers: Age of Ultron. I saw it a second time in perhaps the I don't know if this was the best or the worst way possible, but this is my medal that Marvel and the Alamo Drafthouse conferred upon me. Yes, it's an actual Avengers medal
Nice.
that I sat through the entire uh, all 11 movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 26 hours, which was a great time. It was really cool to see everything come together. It was also very tiring, but I had to take a little cat nap during Guardians of the Galaxy to make sure I was going to stay awake uh, during Age of Ultron. But having seen it a second time, I came away liking it a little bit more, but still feeling pretty much the same way. I liked it a lot. I didn't like it as much as I liked the first Avengers. It had some problems, uh, but it's overall a good movie, and I think people should see it. Uh, what do both of you think?
I'll let Melissa hit this first.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I had a few issues with it, and I think that this is a symptom of maybe a little bit of saturation in this genre because I think when the first Avengers came out, I was just so like because it's something that when you're younger you don't imagine that they would ever make a movie with that many superheroes in it, and you're just like there's this sense of almost wonder. It felt like childhood, like when I watched ET for the first time, and I was like, whoa, you know. And so there's this nostalgia a little bit, and there's this excitement, and so I think you're going to be less critical of it, you know, at least on first watch. With this, you know, I've seen enough superhero movies now and had a few that were disappointing that I didn't like, that I can look at it with a more critical eye and yeah, I had some issues. I don't think I have quite the same issues as some other people with it. But I think there was maybe a little problems with some of the pacing. But overall, I really did enjoy it, and I thought that you know they're trying to squish a lot of things, and you could see the strain I think with the overall MCU, how they have to have everything connected. Sometimes you have to fit things in that, you know, to connect them all that maybe narratively speaking were not the best for the plot. But overall, yeah, I really did enjoy it. I'm not going to see it again in the theater. I'll wait till it comes out, you know, on VOD or something. But I had fun.
I I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it's good. But there's two things happening here. One, we're spoiled, and I expected great. So that's a fanboy issue. The second one is, and I agree with Melissa, the scenes are starting to show. Um, in this case, this movie should have been longer because there was a couple of instances in the scenes where we needed more. We needed more exposition. We needed more about Natasha. We needed more about Natasha and Bruce's connection. We needed more about what's going on with Iron Man because we have to connect Iron Man 3 with this. We have to. And this is also starting, this is where the MCU's direction, it's starting to bundle up a bit because with Iron Man 3, he had destroyed everything at the end. Am I
Yeah.
not wrong about that?
No, he did.
So why is there a whole arsenal of armor now? So some of the stuff it's jarring and it doesn't make sense. So maybe this is a symptom of let's not do standalone movies anymore. We can't just do another Iron Man movie. We have to have other characters come in and blend these a lot better because it was jarring. That was my first reaction. I was like, okay, what's happening here? Did you guys not remember that other movie you made? And there was the big surprise about the person who dies. I don't know. Can we reveal it now?
Yeah,
We're past
let's go ahead and say, like, if you're worried about spoilers, you should tune out now because we're gonna talk some spoilers. So
Cool.
sorry about that. But yeah.
Well, we all thought that Hawkeye was going to die, and I thought this was Whedon at his best, where he was throwing red herrings at us the whole time, and it wasn't him. That was cool. But there was a lot of stuff that seemed way too rushed. Thor was like, "Hey, I'm here, but guess what? I'm going to take off and figure some crap out." And then we wouldn't see him for about 20 minutes. Then he comes back and I'm like, "Hey, I figured this out." Like, there wasn't enough time in this movie. This movie should have been a lot longer. And I know that goes against everything that the studio would want, but it's something that we deserve because it felt a little choppy.
It was supposed to be 3 hours. His original cut was 3 hours, and they made
Should have been.
and there was a leak on Amazon that there was, when it comes out on DVD, that there's gonna be a director's cut with the full 3 hours, but then they retracted, like, so we don't know if that's actually happening or not. But I agree, that extra hour, and you know what? I know that they're worried about like attention spans, and let's face it, there's a lot of morons who don't pay attention and who maybe couldn't sit through a 3-hour movie, but I would have liked it. I wouldn't have minded, and I think there's a lot of people like me out there that would have been like, hell yeah, 3 hours of Avengers, let's go, and yeah, because and this goes back to what I said before, in a movie it's hard to really grow characters, but then when you have so many of them, it's even harder, and to share screen time and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of stuff like the Black Widow Bruce Banner thing came out of nowhere. I didn't not like it. I actually kind of liked the pairing, but it's like, whoa, when did this happen? You know what I mean? Because neither of them have standalone movies, and it was just very sudden,
I agree with you. I hate when things happen off camera because then you catch me by surprise, and I'm like, well, where did this come from? Like, there wasn't an inkling of what was happening, and that kind of ticked me off. And then there was real interesting characters, like Andy Serkis's character was freaking awesome. And for just a brief moment, I thought we might see Black Panther because of where it took place. But then nothing happened, and I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
Once again, this is probably a fanboy issue. Not probably, it is a fanboy issue. But I need more meat. I need more.
No, I actually think that the issue is actually not more meat. I think of this as, sausage making. They were taking all of these disparate elements and all of these characters, and they ground them up through the meat grinder, and they put them into that sausage casing, and they got it so tight that when they went to actually cook it, it started to split open at the seams in a couple of places. What you really need to do is you need to leave a little bit of extra room in there so that when the sausage is cooked, it stays cohesive. I felt like the first Avengers was that sausage, and I feel like this was a little bit overstuffed. It was rushed. One of the big complaints I had about it was as much as Marvel is trying to make this a single cohesive universe, and with their TV shows, that opening scene in Avengers made it seem like, oh, the Avengers have actually been around doing other stuff, going after these Hydra bases together for a while, looking for this scepter. if you watch this week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know that that's not the case at all. That Coulson only barely found the scepter, and he only barely initiated the quote-unquote Theta Protocol, and which assembled the Avengers together, which meant that they were all over the place before this. So, it's nice, but they, on one hand, they expect us to fill in those gaps and believe it. On the other hand, they're they're not giving enough room in the narrative for those things to have happened. They and that concerns me a little bit. Maybe that is a fanboy thing, but it also seems to be a story thing because it does seem jarring. And maybe someone uh, who didn't see Iron Man 3 and didn't see Thor the Dark World and didn't see Captain America the Winter Soldier going to see this will be fine with it. I'm hoping when I go to take my wife that that's kind of the experience that she has, that she's like, "Oh, okay, well I just missed all of this, and so this is how the universe is." Whereas I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's not how the universe is. That's not how they left it at the end of the last of these movies, and that's not what's been happening on Agents of Shield. Second, so with Banner and Romanoff, yeah, I really like that, but yeah, it like when did they figure out this whole lullaby protocol?
To, do you think this is a little too much of a "'twas beauty that claimed the beast" kind of thing?
No.
Uh, no, yeah, I'm not saying that I hated it. I kind of had a chuckle about that. Like like it had to be the pretty girl to calm the Hulk down. Only she could do it.
Well, I mean, in the comics, it was always Betty Ross, so
No,
why
you're
not
right.
Romanoff?
You're completely right. But I think we as a society have moved past that. I would like to think maybe.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe. But I mean, but that's the whole point. Is the way you defeat the Hulk is you can't beat him into submission. You can't fight him because that only makes him angrier and
right.
stronger. You have to calm him down, and so you have to show him something to get him to calm down and subside that rage. And you know what? It like if I rarely get mad, I don't really have a temper. But if I'm mad about something and someone walks up to me and goes, "Hey, big guy," like seriously, that's gonna calm me down, especially if it's someone I care about, especially if it's a cute redhead, especially if it's the Black Widow.
Cute
So
redheads do that.
I think that would work. Um, so I liked that. I thought it was good. I thought they were an interesting pair. Just because they seem very odd together, and I liked the whole conversation that they were able to have about who's a monster, and because both of them feel very bad about their powers and their past, and they're able to share that on a level like she could never have that conversation with Barton or with Captain America. There's not enough guilt there, and so I liked that. I thought that was a good pairing.
Me too. And I didn't get the Beauty and the Beast thing that Mark was talking about, although Marvel is owned by Disney, so I guess
Oh, stop.
you can make an argument. But for me, no, it was very sudden. That whole thing where she does the lullaby and calms him down, I felt like that, and it would be nice to get some insight into how Whedon dreamed this part of the movie up, because it could be a chicken or the egg thing. Like, did he bring that about so that we saw that she can calm the beast and has an actual possibility of a future with him? Because let's face it, if she can't calm the Hulk down and get him back to be Bruce Banner, if she can't handle that, there is no hope for a future for them as a pair. None, right?
Yeah.
So I felt like that's why that was put in there. is because he had to establish that she could calm him down and she knows his limitations and how to handle him so that she could possibly have a relationship with him. So that's how I took that. But you know, it could be that he thought that first and then wrote the rest of it. Who knows? But that's sort of how I saw that whole thing happening. And the other thing too, and I know that people are going to probably disagree with me on this, because I know there's been a lot of criticism of Black Widow's film, but quite honestly, the fact that he took charge and figured a way out to get him back to being Bruce, you know, we don't know if anybody else on the team tried. We don't know that because, again, a lot happened also. But when you look at her trajectory, she's been in, what, 4 movies now, right?
Yeah.
She, to me, has more character growth in those 4 movies than a lot of the characters that had their own standalones.
Amen.
Yes.
And this, to me, was an extension of that. She took charge. They had a problem. How do you bring the Hulk down? That's a problem for the Avengers. And she figured it out. We don't know how it happened or how long it took. We don't know if somebody else goaded her to do it. But to me, I'd like to think she knew there was a problem and went and solved it. Because in Winter Soldier, we really saw her kind of come into her own as someone who could be a leader.
Amen.
And to me, this was an extension of that.
Absolutely. And I like to think that what they did was, I mean, some of the things that they did where there was this very specific like set of touches and hand movements and things like that was associated with it and special keywords, it made me think that this was probably something that she and Banner cooked up to like, you know, that was like hypnosis and you know, Zen meditation sort of things, which is stuff that she, as a master spy, would have been trained in, and where she, you know, she's one of the only ones who is able to take charge of a situation and be calm and confident in a situation without being aggressive. And you know, if Thor tried to face off against the Hulk, it would just be a testosterone battle, and you know, you couldn't get him to calm down. If Stark tried to do it, it wouldn't be the same. As much of buds as Stark and Banner are on the science team, you know, and she's essentially able to do like, you know, a lot of people are. I know this is a different franchise, but the same actor. But Chris Pratt in the upcoming Jurassic Park movie, where he's trained these velociraptors to work with him and to treat him as an equal or as their alpha, and she's got to have come up with something like that, where she's able to do that with, you know, this very savage part of his personality.
I like that take, but once again, we don't know because we weren't shown.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was thinking, and you know, people are going to say that I'm stupid and crazy for saying it, is that we probably need less Avenger movies and more of an Avengers show. And let me tell you why. Agent Carter, we knew just a bit about her from Captain America 1. But when the show came up, she really fleshed out as a character. We found out so much about her background. I fell in love with her as a character, and I want more of her in that show. If we were to have an Avengers show, maybe about 15, 20 episodes a year, we could get a lot more about the background, a lot more about Natasha and Bruce getting it on and figuring stuff out. We could find out a lot more about Tony Stark's paranoia, where Thor goes, and you know what's going on with that. Because, and once again, the movie, I really liked it, but it lacked that depth that I needed, and I think we're only going to get that if we can establish a show of some sorts.
Here's one thing I really noticed watching all 11 movies in a row is that in terms of the cinematic universe, this holds up pretty well. But I was really spoiled by Daredevil on Netflix.
Mm.
And as I watched it the second time, I kept thinking, this is a good action sequence, but it's not as good as Daredevil in the hallway with those Russian
So good.
mobsters.
Yes.
It's not as good as Daredevil in the parking garage. And we were, I don't know, I felt spoiled by that. And spoiled by the first Avengers, and I shouldn't expect something to be up to that same level, even if it's the same franchise and the same director. It's very obvious that Whedon, by the fact that he said he's not going to do any more of these, this was grueling on him, and he just couldn't do any more. And I think part of it was, if you think about it, uh, fully half of this movie was set up for uh, Thor Ragnarok, Marvel or Captain America 3 Civil War, Black Panther, uh, and Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2. That I mean, there was so much in here that was directly a setup for those things. And it felt like it moved the franchise forward, but at the same time, it felt like it was like thinking about Ultron and all the cool Ultron stories you could have told. It was kind of a weak Ultron story.
Yes. Yes.
And it was, but it moved the rest of the narrative forward for the rest of the universe, which doesn't, I don't know. It was good, but it wasn't. It made me really want to see Civil War. It made me
Yeah.
really want to see Ragnarok. It made me,
Ultron.
yeah.
Ultron wasn't as menacing as I expected him to be. I expected a lot more. But here's the other thing. Do you think that Whedon was boxed in?
Yeah.
There was an interview that he had just a couple of days ago. It was in one of the Facebook threads that I follow, where he said that he's not going to do another movie. He's already done it. He's going to go past that. And he said, while it was great, working with Kevin was sometimes great and bad at the same time,
Yep.
because he wants so much. And I think he's cryptically trying to tell us, I wanted to go a different route, but he wouldn't let me. And it
Yeah.
feels that way when you watch the movie.
Yeah. It wasn't the strongest Ultron movie. It wasn't the strongest Avengers movie. It was huge for the Marvel Cinematic Universe in terms of really pulling together all the threads of the Infinity Stones and where they are, and getting into everybody's heads about what they're scared about. And oh, you know what? We're going to have a new Avengers team, and Thor is going to go face an apocalypse on his planet that he's probably going to bring about himself. And there's a lot there, but it just it wasn't. It was really amazing, given all of those balls that Whedon had to juggle, that he was able to make any sort of a cohesive movie at all. So I should be grateful for that. But
Right.
it was just a little overstuffed.
Does it not concern you guys? You both mentioned interviews with Whedon and I've read some of those same interviews. He said how it was stressful for him to have to juggle all the MCU balls and fit them in. I worry about like the future of some of these movies, because we are getting kind of bombarded with them. Every year there's going to be like 2 or 3 of these movies, and between DC and Marvel, and I'm not fatigued yet, but I worry what this means for the future, because they've announced stuff years in advance, and we know all these things are coming, and eventually some of those balls are going to drop, and it nearly happened here. It's still a good movie, but it's I'm a little worried. I'm also, this one didn't make as much as the first Avengers. They released the numbers and it fell short. But I wonder what this means for, say, like Ant-Man coming out in a few months. Like, are people tired of this? Or they need a break? Are they fatigued yet? Um, I don't know. I'm a little worried now. This is the first time where I feel like, Rome might fall. It's
I'm concerned as well, but Daredevil, just look at the response it got. I think if you make it different, you're going to be okay. Um,
right, but
what more can you do with the Avengers, though? And don't get me wrong, I loved the movie. It was good, and I love the Avengers. But what more can you do? You have no other choice but to step forward and go the Infinity Wars, because there's not much more you can do with them. You've already gone as far as you can with them.
but
I
that's
think.
Hollywood is they tend to, when something's successful, their first instinct is to run it into the ground. I mean, you have like Liam Neeson in Taken, and now every middle-aged
God, yeah.
half-been actor is lining up to be a badass. You've got like Kevin Costner and Denzel Washington and Pierce Brosnan all putting out Taken-like movies now. You know what I'm saying? Like that is Hollywood's instinct. If it makes money, you run it into the ground, and I'm
Yeah.
afraid they're going to do that.
Hey,
And
old men need work, man.
you know, but the thing, it's interesting you mentioned Daredevil. That is very different. It's like the darkest corner of the MCU we've seen so far. But it's not just about the fights or the spectacle. It's about characterization as well, which is what I love about it.
Yes.
But you can't
Yes.
do that. I think the movies, because they're so expensive, it has to be about the spectacle, and they have to get bigger and bigger and bolder and whatever. And eventually that's just going to be too top heavy. I feel like this is all a Jenga puzzle, and if you pull the wrong log, the whole thing's going to come crashing down. um and you mentioned like an Avengers TV show. I don't think that would ever happen because it would be way too expensive. Not that it's a bad idea, but maybe we shouldn't expect deep characterization with so many people sharing the screen. Because it's too much. There's not enough time for it. But the only way they can make money off of these is to make it a spectacle. Because let's face it, these movies, they're not made for us. They're made to be like available and enjoyable to like the largest, widest demographic possible. Because it costs $250 million to make, and that's before advertising and all that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so the only way to go is spectacle. And I think maybe we saw a little bit of that this time. You know what I mean? But I do appreciate that they spent a lot of the spectacle time, the big fight at the end, saving people rather than just facing Ultron. That they showed a lot of people, all of them, even like Immortal, like Hawkeye, who I did think was gonna die during that battle.
We all did.
So they showed him risking his life for like a kid, even though he's got two of his own and another on the way that we saw. For one kid, he was willing to risk it all, and I really did appreciate that aspect of it. But there was a lot of spectacle and destruction at the end, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. That seems to be what people want, and that's going to bring the people in. It's unfortunate.
Screw what people want. Honestly, screw it. I don't care. And the reason being is that if we go spectacle, we get the first two Fantastic Four movies.
We get Transformers, is what
We get Transformers, exactly.
Yeah.
The reason Marvel is alive right now and ruling the roost is because they didn't do that. It's because they care about the characters, and they make us care about the characters. And I disagree. These movies are made for us. We're the ones who've propped Marvel up for all these years prior to the movies. So they're made for us. They make them accessible for everybody, but they're mainly made for us. And it's worrisome when quality takes a bit of a dip, because that's a big red flag for me. I don't want more spectacle. I love the spectacle that we're given, but
Yeah.
I don't want more. I want to know more about the characters. I want to care about these people, and I hope they don't abandon that.
Yeah, I think the deal is seeing all of these movies in context, it showed me that the less of a lift the movie had to do in terms of like moving a bigger storyline forward, the more successful it was. I looked back on this and I looked at Thor: The Dark World and I'm like, this movie really didn't do a whole lot except to set up the next Thor movie and tell us about one of the Infinity Stones. And otherwise it's just kind of a waste of time. And this
I liked it.
yeah, but you look at Captain America: The Winter Soldier, you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, and they were kind of free to tell their own story. They moved the universe forward in very, very big ways, but it wasn't focused on moving the story together or moving the story forward. It was focused on those individual characters and the individual story encapsulated within that movie. And I think that Ant-Man is going to be that kind of a movie. It's going to be a little bit disconnected. There's probably not going to be any Infinity Gems in Ant-Man. There probably will be in maybe in Civil War. Who knows? Definitely in Guardians too, because we're going to have to find all 6 of them, and there's 2 more out there. Maybe the final one they'll wait until Infinity War Part 1, and the finale is Thanos actually gets all 6 of them together. So who knows?
Speaking of which, can we just talk about Vision for a little bit? Because,
yes.
God, I love Vision.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Perfect casting, I gotta say. Paul Bettany. I mean, they couldn't have done that any better. And even though I, too, was disappointed in Ultron, if you're going to voice a smarmy cyborg,
right,
like, you couldn't have gone better.
Oh, my gosh. James Spader was awesome. I mean, I said this last week. There's no one that can hold up to Robert Downey Jr. and that verbal patter, but James Spader kind of can. And he did. And it was great. And even though the two of those... I mean, those 2 actors never were physically in the same space. That was just their voices playing off of each other. But it was so good.
Right. I really liked it. I especially liked the end where Vision is talking to Ultron. Beautiful scene where Ultron says they're doomed. And Vision says, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I love the way he said it. He's like, I know, but there's beauty in them, and it's such a privilege to be with them. And at that point, I was like, holy crap, we're a horrible species, we are.
I think that was my favorite line of the whole movie, though. He's like, "You're so naive," and he said, "Well, I was born yesterday."
I love that. Yeah.
I think that was my favorite line of the whole movie. That was really beautiful.
Does he kill him?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, well,
you can't. Sure?
You can't kill Ultron. That's the great thing about Ultron. It's the same. I mean, it's the exact same thing with Brainiac. There's going to be a little piece of him that survives somewhere, and he's going to be able to reprogram himself and reconstitute himself, and he'll come back.
Yeah, but Vision had said before when he was talking with the Avengers, I don't want to kill him.
Yep.
So at the end, we just see a bright light. Does he kill him, destroy him, or does he preserve a part of him? What is Vision's endgame here?
He might. I mean, it could be that. I mean, so check this out. Thanos is going to have to get the Mind Stone out of Vision. I mean, presumably he's going to have to tear it out of Vision's skull, and bye-bye Vision, and then you've probably got a pissed off Scarlet Witch willing to end humanity, or willing to end existence with her hex powers. And if that happens, then game over. But if he preserved a little bit of Ultron within his system, and Vision's dead, and Ultron gets out and reconstitutes himself, and now he's on Thanos' team or something. Think about the possibilities behind that. That's just.
I did enjoy that. I liked that quite a bit. But let's talk about and it has to be addressed. Women in Marvel and women's roles in this movie in particular. We all know that Joss Whedon's very progressive. He's very, pro-feminist. I was kind of disappointed that Hawkeye has this family, right? And he's got this traditional wife who stays in place, waiting for the man to come home, and she's the lady of the house, and it all seemed too retro, I guess. Like,
I don't
why?
know.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, we can.
Got disconnected, so I just wanted to make sure before I say my 2 cents. I just need to make sure I was in there.
yeah. Jordan, what do you think?
Go for it.
I wasn't bothered by that because I think that first of all, she was obviously very smart. She was very bright. You can't have all women be what you think they should be to be like progressive or strong, whatever strong even means to each person. There are some women who are homemakers, and that's their choice, and I'm okay with that. Quite honestly, that might be the only way you could have a successful relationship with somebody in his position, is if at least one of you is stable. You can't have 3 kids and both of you off saving the world. That's who's taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of characterizations of women, and a woman can be a housewife and still be a strong, credible, competent person.
Yeah.
So I didn't really take it that way at all. But I don't know. I see your point, but I just disagree.
I totally agree with you too. It's not that I'm trying to peg women into a particular role. It's just that I don't. It just felt a little off. And to his credit, Hawkeye was supposed to keep this extremely private and secret from everybody. So that's cool. I did like that, but I don't know. I don't know why I felt that way. I just felt like, does this belong? I don't know.
In a perfect world, it's like I would like to think that there's a space where uh, having a kid is a grueling experience, and especially the pregnancy in that first year is a lot of work, and especially if you've got 2 other kids. And I don't know what Shield's maternity leave programs like or whatever, but like take whatever time you need and take care of yourself, take care of your family, focus on that for a little while, and then maybe she does have a career. Maybe she's a very successful accountant or file clerk or something, and she works from home, and you just never saw that. I don't know. I I hate to peg her into one little thing because we saw something. It just seemed like, I don't know, he wanted a simpler kind of life, and that could be one aspect of it. I don't necessarily see uh, Miss Hawkeye, Miss Barton as a weak female character just because she stays at home with the kids. So
Yeah, okay. That's I don't know why I got that impression, but it's just an impression I got, and it just kind of
I
threw me off for a bit.
I think it always comes down to choice. Like if you're barefoot and pregnant in your home because of a massive patriarchy and you're not allowed to work outside the home and your husband doesn't let you out of the house unless you're in a dress and things like that, then that is a huge issue. That's terrible. Um, but if it's your choice and you're a badass homemaker and mom, and you're like, I'm going to take 10 years off from my career and raise my family and focus on that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hope we live in a world where a man could do that as well. And
Oh, I would love to do that. I'd have 4 kids right now if I could. Hell, man, I love hanging around with my kid. The other thing that was kind of cool, even though it happened off screen, was that Jane and Pepper are running their own companies. They're doing all these badass things, and the 2 guys in the scene are fighting about who's got the better chick, which is kind of funny. But it's such a guy thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't miss Pepper just because I'm kind of over Gwyneth Paltrow,
Oh,
but
shut your mouth.
um
I agree with you completely on that, Andy. I don't mind the character Pepper Potts, but when I see her smug face, I just want to slap it. That's
What the hell?
even
I
matters.
and I know the exact, like, I was okay with her in the first Iron Man. I was okay with her for most of the second Iron Man, and about halfway through I'm like, okay, I'm done with Pepper Potts. I've had enough of her. I'm cool. Done. And so didn't need her in the third one, didn't need her. And plus she's off all extremisy. It's like, I don't know. Maybe they could have had her burn stuff up or something. Put
Oh,
her in
didn't they
a
purge her?
and
Didn't they purge the extremists out of her? I thought they did
they
towards
were
the
work
end.
they were working on it. I don't know if they did. I
Okay.
think they should leave her indestructible. Leave her indestructible and give her the rescue suit and let Pepper Potts go off on her own Iron Man adventure. That'd be fine. I don't.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool. Like they were actually very both of them, Pepper and what's her name? I forgot.
Jane Foster.
Jane, yeah, Jane. They're both extremely successful, and we heard about Jane being in line for the Nobel Peace Prize. But I just found it really funny that the two guys are arguing as to who's got the better girlfriend, fiance, whatever they are.
Hmm.
And Thor
That's what.
finishing it with Jane's better.
No, the best line of that exchange was Maria Hill saying like, "Huh," and I wonder why they wouldn't want to be here in a party with the two of you.
Yeah.
Testosterone. Oh, oh, Maria Hill. I love Maria Hill.
Yeah, speaking of which, I want a bigger role for her. And
I do too.
not only do I want more of Black Widow, because she wasn't as important in this movie as she was for the Winter Soldier, and I found that kind of disappointing. I thought she was going to have a much bigger role.
I want a Black Widow movie with Maria Hill where it's kind of like a buddy cop movie with the two of them as like shield agents out on the hunt for someone, and it's kind of funny. I don't know. It's like Thelma and Louise meets The Heat meets Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Replace Steve Rogers with Maria Hill in Winter Soldier, and that would work too. Road trip movie where you're trying to figure something out. That'd be cool. But since we're talking about a Black Widow spin-off movie, let's talk about the SNL fake trailer that we saw last night, because I think this says a lot about where we are as fandom and geekdom with how we see female characters, unfortunately. Um, I don't know, Melissa, how would you sum up what we saw with this?
Well, it's a fake trailer for a romantic comedy starring Black Widow and several of the Avengers as well. Um, and basically, it's her in New York City, and she's very tropey. She's very much that woman. Because in romantic comedies, here's the problem I have. There's some romantic comedies I enjoy despite their shortcomings, and there's some that I just spend the whole time rolling my eyes. And mostly I roll my eyes at the fact that these women, they're like, they have these jobs that are awesome that they have to be really smart and competent for, like they own their own business or they're high level executives, and yet they're so dumb in other aspects of their life that you wonder like how the hell they got through college or how the hell they got their own business. Sometimes you wonder how the hell they got their puberty. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you last this long on this earth without like putting your finger in an electric socket or something? It varies, right? But in this case, she's an Avenger, she's a super spy, which obviously you have to be really good at your job to be at that level. You have to be smart, an ass kicker, and kick ass at the same time, because those aren't really the same thing.
Hmm.
Um, and yet here she is in her romantic life, just clueless and stupid, and all the intelligence she would need to have has is nowhere to be found, and she's pouring ketchup on her granola and just like, just being dumb and having to like be awkward because that's a definite trope with romantic comedies, is the woman is awkward in her social life, you know, even though she's completely competent in the boardroom. And so, you know, it plays up on all of those things. It's really funny, and it's basically the state of romantic comedies, you know, and yeah, unfortunately, how we sometimes see women, they can't have it together in every aspect of their life. They've got to be completely incompetent in half their life, you know. And it's always the emotional side, which is ridiculous. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what the whole fake trailer was about.
And to me, it said, like, the question is, well, why can't we have a Wonder Woman movie? Why can't we have a Black Widow movie? Why can't we have a Captain Marvel movie? And this is SNL basically answering why, because if we let Hollywood do what they do to most stuff, this is what they would churn out, which is really unfortunate. And I wouldn't want to see. I mean, there was a comic book of Models Inc. that Stan Lee wrote in the '60s, and it was like, oh, who was in it? It was Mary Jane Watson and two other people, and I can't remember. But you know, you can make a Models Inc. movie under the banner of Marvel, but I really want to see a strong female character, trademark Joss Whedon, you know, um, led film that defies a lot of these tropes and, you know, gives us something more. Seeing all of the Black Widow stuff back to back to back and seeing that growth in her character really made me want to see more of her. Not only because Scarlett Johansson is a great actress or because this is a great character, but really because there's more to explore here, and I wish that we could have that because I don't know, it just, why not?
You know, we're kind of getting that though with Agents of Shield. Agent May has become fully fleshed out now. We know her backstory. I respect her now more as a character, and like I really dig her character now because we
Yeah.
were able to see everything that led up to the cavalry incident.
That was amazing.
Mockingjay is getting even more intriguing to me every episode. I love how she's struggling with the choices that she's making. That's freaking awesome. Sky's character also is starting to take charge. So we're getting that strong feminine characters in that show, and I hope it bleeds out to more shows along the way.
The one thing I like the most about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., despite some of its failings as a show, is how effortlessly diverse it is. It doesn't matter. It's like you almost don't even notice that, like, oh, there are lead Asian actors in these lead roles, or there are several black characters on this show, or several of the main characters are women. They're just all agents. And you know, one of the first lines in the first Iron Man, he's riding in that Humvee, and the driver says something. He's like, "Oh, you're a woman. I didn't even notice. Not that you wouldn't be a woman, but that's what we're going for here, right? You know, you're all the same. You're a soldier first." And I'm like, yeah, that kind of is. And you know, we're getting some of that. Unfortunately, I mean, well, that character had as much character development as everyone else who got blown up in that Humvee,
Right.
unfortunately.
A potato could have done that.
Yeah, so I mean, but that was nothing. But it's that kind of thing where we cease to notice that uh, that it's not even tokenism. It's just we're, you know, there are characters, and there are male characters and there are female characters, and there's a balance between them, and females have traditional feminine traits, but they also have traditional male traits, and uh, males can have traditional female traits, and you know, it's not a no one is so closely defined by their race or their gender. The characters are simply the characters, and I think that's a good place to be going. I also think there's a good place for it to be said that, you know, someone could be like, well, you know, I want to talk about what it's like to be black in America today, and that can be part of it. But I like how I don't know, it feels like we're getting there, and I think that's a good thing.
It
Yeah.
reminds me a little of Star Trek in that way because when the original series came out, you didn't see black women on TV, you didn't see Asians on TV, you didn't see them in the same show as white people. You know, there was still a lot of blatant racism. I mean, there's racism still today, but it was much more blatant back then.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be like a utopia where you would have, you know, George Takei and all of them all together, and they didn't, you know, gender and race weren't supposed to matter. Even as they put women in skirts so short you practically see their cooch, but whatever, you know. It's still incredibly sexist in some ways, but you know, it was the 60s, and for the 60s it was big progress, you know. But yeah, it sort of reminds me a little bit of that, Agents of Shield. And also, I've got to say, there's this trope of females who kick ass, like physically, like fight, you know, having to do it like in a machine-like way, and they don't show emotion or have personality. You know that trope, you know, it's
Yeah.
been used a lot, and they don't have that here. These women are, you know, getting to be fleshed out. That, you know, it's taken a little longer than I would have liked, especially with May. But I'm with Marco on this, that May is really come into her own as a character, and we saw her with her life really put together. Like, remember when I was saying in romantic comedies women can't have both aspects of their life in balance, you know,
Right.
because it's always
Yeah.
like they fail in one, like fail spectacularly in one aspect, usually the love, romantic, personal side, even as they're competent in the boardroom. With May, we saw flashbacks to, she had a, you know, she was a great agent, she had the husband, they were thinking of starting a family, they were solid, and then this thing happened, you know, and she became the cavalry in a way, you know. But she really had it all together, and that is so rare to see,
and
female,
and
all of it together, you
Yeah,
know.
and it explained how, you know, that is that trope that they're very that kind of ice queen sort
Mhm.
of thing where in order to become a weapon, I've, you know, lost all emotion. And it explains that in an organic way where it's like, oh, this is all about that trauma. And I think that might be my favorite episode of Agents of Shield so far. It was just
It was great.
it was really good, and you know, it was great. It was great to see that. And at this point, I'm kind of over Coulson, and I'm kind of on Team May. You know, I love Coulson, but I think May is my favorite character on there right now.
I still have a lot of love for Coulson. I was kind of disappointed in May that she would doubt Coulson and that she would kind of turn against him. I was real disappointed with that. But that's part of her character. I mean, she's been through a lot, and we were shown that, so I can appreciate that.
No,
I still love
her original mission was she was sent by Fury to spy on Coulson,
right.
and she's always had to have harbored those some doubts, and she's there to always be a check on him, and I think that's interesting. So I like that has continued. She's not a sycophant.
What would you do if you saw that? Well, remember when it came up on the screen and there was Coulson with Ward? I mean, what would you do? You know, don't tell me you wouldn't have doubts then. I mean, that
Yeah.
was, you
I,
know.
at this point, I would have trust Coulson, or I would have trusted him so much already that I would at least take a step back and wait for things to play out.
Right, but
Coulson's not Coulson anymore, man.
yeah, and she doesn't have allegiance to Coulson. I feel like her allegiance is to doing the right thing. And if she felt like the quote unquote real Shield was the right thing, then that's what she's going to go with, because in her heart, I think she just wants to help people and do the right thing. And she felt like Coulson maybe wasn't. And let's face it, Coulson, you know, he's got a lot of secrets. He keeps a lot of things close to the vest. He's I mean, he's a super spy, you know. You can't really trust someone with that many secrets.
But you, as mayor, are not a level 7, so
I have a lanyard, okay?
Hey, I got a lanyard. I was so happy. They actually gave us lanyards at the Alamo Draft House that said Shield and
We
Stark
hate
on
you.
them. I was so happy. I'm
We
like,
really
yes,
hate you, Andy.
I finally got my Shield lanyard. Thanks, Patton Oswalt. I've only been waiting a year and a couple of months for that. Finally got my lanyard. Anyway, um, we have been going on so long about this. I wanted to talk about robots, but I don't think we have the time. So I think we're going to have to save our robot talk for another time. But Melissa, we never got an answer from you of who you are in your prime alternate universe.
Well, my mind first, and don't laugh, but it kind of goes to Marie Curie, and the reason why, when I was younger, I had like this obsession with sea life, and I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be like the next Jacques Cousteau and have my own Calypso and everything. But I'm
Awesome.
terrible at math. I really am, and math is a big component of any science. So I feel like I was failed by my brain's inability to do numbers. And she's a very important physicist, but I would want to be like Marie Curie today, like have her brain and her will and how she kind of broke through all the glass ceilings. I would want to do that today and maybe like figure out something that would help the world, that would help save people, like maybe like cold fusion or something. You know what I mean? Like I would want to take that knowledge and do something really great that would help the planet. So that's sort of where I think I would go. I don't really want power necessarily. I don't want fame or fortune. I would really want the ability to help people, and I think this would be like a way to kind of cross out what I feel like was my genetic failing of being bad at math.
I
Yeah.
well, first of all, I would never laugh at someone who said they'd like to be a modern Marie Curie. I hope that I talked to my daughter about Marie Curie and how great she was. I mean, how many people have ever won two Nobel Prizes in different things, and one of them's a woman? Come on, like she, Marie Curie kicks all sorts of ass,
Yes, she
and
does. I could do without the radiation, but yeah.
yeah, that's an unfortunate thing. I truly believe that your brain did not fail you. I think our U.S. educational system failed you because
Amen, brother.
we have been teaching math wrong for generations, and uh, there there's certainly a huge achievement gap in between boys and girls where we kind of, I think, systemically uh, are able to basically say, well, girls don't need to be good at math, and we've been able to write that off. So I keep telling my daughter that she's not allowed to be bad at math. That there's no such thing. That she will be good at math. So uh, I'm sorry that our educational system failed you, Melissa. In that prime universe, they teach math correctly, and you were able to become that marine biologist. So,
Yeah.
Where you get to
so
be friends with Batman that looks a lot like me.
yep, and I'm the vice president. So
This is awesome.
that's a really cool universe. I want to live in that universe. I like that place. Okay, well,
Oh,
thank. Oh,
before we log off, I think there are two very newsworthy things that happened that we do need to address. Well, we don't have to, but I'd like to bring it up. Is one, Torchwood is back on radio, but John Barrowman and the rest of the Torchwood crew are going to be back, and they're going to be doing radio plays based on Torchwood and what they have experienced after Miracle Day. So this is a continuation of the Torchwood story.
wow.
And the second little bit of news that was actually kind of big is that Josh Trank is out of the Star Wars film universe, which to me was a good thing because I was kind of iffy with him. But yeah, those are two bits of news that I think need to be mentioned in this show.
I think I think someone saw an early cut of Fantastic Four and was not pleased
Yeah,
with it.
and I feel bad about that because the last trailer they kind of brought me in a little bit, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
adopted the attitude that I'm at least gonna watch it. But this probably means bad things about Fantastic Four.
I know, and that makes me sad because I've been a proponent of Trank for a long time, and I hope that Hollywood doesn't take the wrong message from this of uh, you can't give Michael B. Jordan big roles. So, because I love that guy.
Yeah,
So,
he doesn't. Yeah.
it may just be not a good movie, and maybe Josh Trank was a one-hit wonder. M. Night Shyamalan sure was. So, oh no, he was a two-hit wonder because
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
Unbreakable was great. I
I
loved
like The Village.
Oh, you know what? I like The Village too. I liked it okay, but it's like every
Yeah,
single movie of his was like a series of diminishing
yeah,
returns.
it was declines. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So really briefly, Melissa, any final thoughts before I wrap this up?
No, I had a great time. I think we could go longer talking about women in the Marvel universe and women in Doctor Who, but we'll wait till maybe you'll invite me back after you're done watching like the Amy Pond series, and then because I completely disagree with Margot on that one, but vehemently.
We got to bring her back with Rebecca because Rebecca hates Matt Smith because she was born wrong. Uh, First salvo. But I think once you've caught up, we need to have them both back, and we'll have a pretty cool discussion.
Well, Melissa, this has been awesome, and as far as I'm concerned, you've got an open invitation. So, any future episodes, as I'm watching them, that you want to be on here, you are always welcome as part of the Who Virgin family. And I want you back on here. I want to continue our discussions because this episode, much like Avengers to Age of Ultron, is overstuffed. We have just way too much. I wanted to keep this short, under an hour. We're probably closer to
That
two
was
at this
never going to
point.
happen.
Oh, that
No.
was never going to happen. It's terrible. So we'll definitely have you back on, hopefully sooner rather than later, and we can talk about all that. So thanks very much for being here. Thanks as always to Mark for being here. Thanks to the folks at Big Shiny Robot and especially Tom Winkley for hosting our website at whovirgin.com. You can find us there. Uh, Go check it out. Connect with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and Tumblr as I log through the next several episodes. Next week we'll get two or three more in, and the Idiot's Lantern, the Impossible Planet, the Satan Pit. Maybe we'll get to Love and Monsters.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, Love and Monsters. Oh God, I got plenty to say about that.
Okay, well, I'll see how far I get. I'm moving this week, so I don't know. It may only be one or two episodes. I'll see if I can get three or four in. Uh, but join us next week as we talk about all of those, and we'll see you all next time.
May the fourth be with you.
And that's over.
Yay!
Yay!
Nelly!
That was awesome. Thank you so much. That was super awesome. You totally brought it. Um, you totally brought it. That was beyond my wildest expectations. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime, just let me know when you want me back, and I don't do much on Sundays except cook and laundry, so.
Perfect. That's what I try and do too, which is why it seemed like a good time to try and do it. So I'll get myself moved this week. I'll be in my new office slash studio space next week to be able to do this. Hopefully, as long as we get the internet set up, and we'll see next week. Yeah, I don't know when Rebecca wanted to join us next, but um, did Melissa, do you have any? Are there any of these other ones like going into the end of season 2 or the beginning of season 3 where you're like, oh, I totally have to be there for that?
Um, no, I mean I have opinions about everything, so it really doesn't matter. I have a lot of opinions about Martha Jones coming up.
Okay.
Uh,
I like her.
well, it's not that I don't like her, but I appreciate that they made her a doctor, or well, actually a student,
Companion.
a medical student. Definitely better than a kissogram girl like Amy Pond. But
Oh, please.
it's the whole pining thing, how she just pines for him and throws herself at him. That's half her character. It's just, ugh,
But
you know.
no, it's not that though. Like you have to understand that it's a connection she made since her childhood. It's not that she's in love with him, because remember the choice she makes at the end. It's not for the doctor.
No, I mean she makes a choice for herself, yes, but I mean they never really develop her much as a person. They just half of her personality comes from her pining after him, and he's obviously brokenhearted over Rose, and it's just it's almost shameful the way she just tries to throw herself at him. I don't like it.
But
Uh,
it's not romantic. It's not ever romantic though.
well,
Okay, we're gonna have to have a discussion once Amy Pond shows up on Andy's when he catches up to those seasons, because I think that's one big gigantic mistake people make with Amy Pond. They think that she just had this crazy crush on the Doctor when that wasn't it at all.
no, I don't have a problem with that part, or even when she flirts with the Doctor. What I have a problem with Amy Pond is that um first of all, she doesn't even remember being pregnant. I mean, she her personality was taken away, her baby was taken away. Like she never had control during that whole sequence over her body or her reproductive choices. It that bothers me, that whole, and Andy's probably like, what the hell are they doing? What is
No, I'm
it,
excited for this. This sounds awesome.
doesn't it?
Yeah,
Hey,
I hated it too, but it wasn't her fault. It was an alien race. They did this to her. It's an allegory to rape, I guess.
Whole time
Um,
a victim the whole time, and
well, she was a victim though. That she was a true victim. She was kidnapped. She was forcefully inseminated. That's the very definition of victimhood.
yeah,
She,
but you have a problem with all of these companions being victimized in some way or another. She was the most extreme example, I think. But that whole pregnancy thing. But it's just, uh, we never really see them as people.
I get where you come
People.
like I get where you come from, but she truly was a victim. She wasn't like Rose, like, oh, I'm gonna go cause trouble, so the Doctor has to come rescue me, which is all Rose ever did. All Rose ever did, and to a certain extent, so did Donna. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Amy didn't. She was, like I said, she was kidnapped. It was all against her will. She was a true victim.
yeah. And in doing that, we didn't get any character growth from her. She was basically in prison and not able to be in charge of herself or her body or her decisions. Um, it that whole sequence is just troublesome to have a woman in that position who's supposed to be like strong and empowered and is exactly the opposite. And yeah, some of that's not her fault, but the writers can do better. They
Yeah, I
can do
mean,
better than to keep doing this to these companions. And it's only this season with Capaldi that we're even seeing the Doctor even consider the toll he takes on the people around him.
yeah, you're right, and I like that. But once again, she wasn't playing the victim. She was an actual victim. And she is a strong person. Much like in our world, Malala, she was standing up to the Taliban and she got shot in the head for her troubles. She was a victim of that, but she was a very strong person. Amy's always been very strong. There's not much you can do when you're kidnapped. An entire race of people are pinning you down. You're not going to get out of that. It's just not going to happen.
There's a difference between strong and strong-willed. She's stubborn. She's strong-willed. I don't think she's strong.
Uh,
But that's another discussion together. Like, what is
r-
this strong woman. Everybody talks strong woman, strong woman. What? It's almost like a trope already. Like
Yeah.
what is it?
You're right. You're right. But she. Okay. Well, we need to have that discussion.
That's why I always say strong woman trademark Joss Whedon because it is becoming almost its own trope where it's like that's the only thing that we think like is what a strong female character is. So I don't know. Yeah.
Like we were talking about Sherlock earlier, and we were talking about what's her name, and you were
Mary?
the strong woman. No, not Mary. The dominatrix. What's her name?
I keep forgetting her name. I know who you're talking about, though.
I don't think she's strong at all. I thought she was quite weak. She used her body, she used her sexuality, and that's all she had. She was a one-trick pony. You know, I mean, and she
pun.
fluster
Nice.
him. What did she do? Instead of using her brain, she got naked to fluster him. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, some people may see that as strong because she got one over on him early.
But she had the wherewithal to know that's the one thing that could fluster him.
Because she's probably never tried anything else. Because God forbid a woman use her mind.
Because nothing else works on Sherlock, though. Everybody's tried.
That she doesn't know that. She doesn't know him. That's
She does know that.
him.
Okay. Well, this argument will be continued.
I love this argument. This is absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, this is the discussion we need to have, and I think we need to I need to invite Rebecca, and then I need to get Brooke and Erica on here from Two Feminist Moms, because those girls are great, and we can, and they're pretty nerdy too. So we can all discuss what. Well, I shouldn't say we can all discuss because I hate discussions of feminism dominated by men. Like, we're going to set the terms of what feminism means.
We'll tell you what a real woman is.
Yeah, like we can sit back and listen and put in our 2 cents, but have a space where we can hash this out, because I think that would be super awesome.
Yeah, I don't mind the men being a big part of the conversation. The only thing I would take offense to is if you try to tell me I'm wrong for feeling the way I do.
Yeah. Well, you're wrong to feel that way. I'm allowed to tell you how to feel.
Stop feeling that way, Melly. Cut it out.
No, because I've had this conversation. Like, the word feminist, I have issues with modern day feminism because I don't feel it's inclusive enough. And I get so much crap for that because, oh, you've got to be a feminist. I'm about equality, I'm about everything, but I feel like uneducated or undereducated women of color, modern day feminism leaves them in the dust. They just don't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's done. And as a Mexican American and a woman, I can tell you for sure that this is the truth. And but there's a lot, even men telling me, well, you're supposed to be, like, I have to toe that feminist line, even though it's so disjointed, feminism at this point. It's so fractured as a concept that I don't even know what it means anymore. And when people tell me I'm wrong for feeling that way, it makes me mad. My point is valid. My view, my feelings, you know what I'm saying? That's the only time I would get mad at you guys, if you told me that I shouldn't feel that way.
I completely get where Melissa's coming from, especially from our culture. It's so the patrimony in the Mexican culture is just heavy. It's so heavy, and damn it, if women don't have a place and they should know it, and why are you trying to break that? And if you're doing it here in the States, through a heavy Mexican culture, it's like, oh, you're trying to be white. Feminism is such a bad thing in that culture that it's gonna take a while, or it's gonna take something huge to reverse that. So I completely get where Melissa's coming from and how frustrating it can get.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, I understand that like I personally identify as a feminist only because I can't think of a better term for what I think of, but also understanding that may not be. You're right. It's not the most inclusive, and there's got to be a better way. But what I see it as is a way of um, specifically addressing issues of sexism and patriarchy and being empowering to all women, but also me understanding that this isn't this is a hard place I have as a progressive white male, is that I can be a good ally on a lot of these things, but I can't change myself, uh, and that all for a lot of these issues I frankly have to take a back seat and be like, you tell me what it is you want. Like, what do you like? How can like African American community? What can I help you with? Latino community, what do you want? What are your issues? Like, it's not my point to be like the decider of uh, what the social justice issue is of the day. It's for me to like try and be a good ally to anyone who I see who is being a victim of some sort of oppression or roadblocks to for them being able to do what they want to do. So I don't know. It's tough. Oh, it's so hard for me as a white male. Uh, no, that's not at all what I'm trying to say. But I am
It's so
trying to say
hard being white.
y'all don't know what it's like being male, middle class, and white. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I think equalist might be a better term. I
yeah.
forgot.
I hate those terms like, oh, I'm a humanist, I'm an equalist or whatever, because it's used by a lot of people who actually have like misogyny ingrained in them, that
Way to
they're
crap
like,
on me.
hey, no, I'm not saying everyone, but like that there's a specific kind of like men's rights activist who
That's
is
stupid.
is not at all for equality. They're for essentially the status quo with a couple of tweaks. And I'm
That's
like,
I
yeah,
hate that crap about what about us men or white people who complain about reverse racism. Just stop it. It's so stupid. It really is so idiotic. But I don't know who it was that said when they asked him, "Are you feminist?" And he said, "I'll answer it this way: if you believe women should be treated exactly the same as men and should get paid the same as men for doing the same job, you're a feminist." And I think that's what it comes down to me.
Because
Um,
that's what feminism is about. It's about like this success and this pay grade or whatever, but it's so much more than that. Because how about we just get women out of abusive relationships? How about if we take away the stigma of those women in abusive relationships?
mhm.
How about we
yeah,
just get women into school, like a good school, and not a school that's using textbooks from the 1970s because they live in the ghetto and don't have funding? You know what I'm saying? That's
yes,
what feminism needs to be. And it's not, it's about like the workplace only. What about the women who will never get to the corporate ladder? They
hmm
won't even get to the first rung, much less climb it. That's my problem. That's why I don't self-identify as a feminist. And I don't know if like you guys read things like a Ms. Magazine or anything, or if like maybe you follow them on Facebook. It's so
yeah,
interesting to me when a woman comes out and just says I'm not a feminist. It's like they tear her down.
What's her name?
Character assassination. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, like the Katy Perrys of the world, when they say they're not feminist, they sound stupid because the very next thing out of their mouth is, I love men. Like somehow being a feminist means you hate men. That, I swear, if somebody says that to me in person, I'm going to punch them in the face. Uh, Seriously. Because being a feminist doesn't mean you hate men. And this is someone who doesn't identify as a feminist, yet has feminist ideals in a lot of ways. Um, I don't equate the two, but somehow we've done this like through Rush Limbaugh and his feminazis and all this stuff. They
Yeah.
create stereotype of a feminist who hates men, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So when you say you're not a feminist because you love men, you're gonna get punched if you're in my vicinity, because somebody needs to knock sense into you. That's so stupid, and I understand them criticizing them, but we're talking like character assassination. Like you better toe that line. You better call yourself a feminist if you're a woman, and if you don't, you're wrong. And they don't want to hear any other points, even if they're valid.
Right. Shailene Woodley said in an interview that she wasn't a feminist and she didn't
Yeah.
get feminism, and they crucified her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over the HuffPost. I used to really read the HuffPost religiously. They're going in a weird direction now, and I can't stand them anymore. But they posted a couple of articles just blasting Shailene Woodley for saying that. Like, how dare she? She's not respecting the females that came before her to give her this. Like, that's not what it's about, you morons. That really offended me massively. I don't understand why they would do that.
Feminist to character assassinate a person for not claiming a label, a fucking label. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all feminism is. It's a label, because it's there's no one definition. It's whatever you want it to be, and that's why I sort of reject the label, because I'm not sure what it is, and I don't know if I want to be associated with that, because there's a lot of like classism and even racism, involved with it, because modern day feminism is very much Anglo, like successful, educated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it doesn't speak to me in my community. It doesn't speak to me the way I grew up. You understand? And if I eschew a label, you're going to tear me down and make me like Darth Vader. You know what I'm saying? It just that, and it's women doing it to each other. That's the worst part. If it was a man, you could at least dismiss it as a clueless man. But when women who claim to want equality and be feminists just do this to each other, it gets my goat.
We on the left in general are horrible at setting up for ourselves these never-ending purity tests, and it's so tough. It's like we all need to calm down a little bit, and like when someone says something dumb, instead of piling on, like let's step back for a moment, take a breath, and be like, okay, first of all, is this really the end of the world? Second of all, is this maybe an opportunity for a teaching moment? Rather than, let's all pile on and, because someone used the wrong word, or because they don't meet our definition of what we think they should be. I think we'd all, I don't know. I think we'd probably all do better for that. I'd hope. I mean, it's too bad because I would hope that everyone could identify, um, if not a feminist, that we find a better term that is intersectional and the speaks to the culture and background of all people. And geez, coming from the environmental realm, there is, man, you should see the membership of the Sierra Club. It The actual membership, we look like Mitt Romney's country club. I mean, it's awful. It is so white. It is so upper middle class. It's gross, and it's like, I have to punch myself every once in a while and be like, I'm not trying to save the environment for upper middle class white people. Um, I'm trying to save the environment for everybody, and it's so easy to ignore issues of environmental justice and other things, 'cause we get these little blinders on, and we constantly have to be looking out. So uh, one of these years we'll all figure it out, right?
Yeah, one of these years.
Real quick,
This is why I love Melly so much. Her passion's awesome.
can I ask you guys quick? I'm really dying to know what you guys think because I don't think you discussed this on Facebook or anything. I just want to know, and I'm not going to say my opinion yet so that I don't color yours at all, but not that I think I would, but you know that whole dust up with Jeremy Renner and Chris Evans calling Black Widow a slut and a whore?
Oh.
What did you think of that? Because I cannot believe some of the opinions I heard about this.
Okay. The way I talk with people that I'm very, 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 very close with, we say some ridiculous, stupid stuff. I think this is an example of that it bled out, and they didn't realize how far they were taking a joke. I don't think those comments are indicative of their characters at all. I think it just got blown up.
Their characters as people or the Marvel characters, you mean?
No, as people.
As
Okay.
Chris Evans and Jeremy Renner personally.
Right.
It's really tough for me because I have banished words like that from my vocabulary for a long time. Like I will not, like, pretty much under any circumstances, refer to a woman or a girl as a bitch. Like that, it's just anathema to me. And ever since I was a teenager, I'm like, no, that's so full of misogyny. I can't do it. Now, my male friends, yeah, I'll call them that. I'll call dudes sluts.
Yeah.
But not a woman, because I feel like that is such a, I don't know, for me personally, it feels so uncomfortable, like I'm policing someone's sexuality. Um, I, but
There's
I don't,
nothing, first of all, with being a slut. If you like sex, go for it. I hate it when we're sex shamed that way. It's like men want us to have sex with them, but then they want to shame us for it. Screw that. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I
Um,
don't,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't want to shame anybody for that. I want to welcome that.
I definitely want to welcome that.
I'm okay with this.
What I would think, but apparently not everyone thinks that way. So here's the thing. I'm with you, Marco, to an extent. Like when you said you think that they took the joke too far, but they're professionals who've done these junkets lots of times. They should have known better than to say
They
it
should
there
have.
with a camera in front of their face. But the thing and again, I don't think it's indicative necessarily of who they are as people, hopefully. Although I do get that creepy, ugly vibe from Renner. I gotta say, I
Why?
don't know why.
Look, this is Joe Biden saying that Barack Obama is a well-spoken African American man, where people immediately said, "Oh, that's racist. He doesn't like black people." He should have worded it better, or he should never have said it at all. But I don't think that makes Joe Biden a racist. If anything, for better or for worse, he is a product of his upbringing and his environment and his time, and he needs to learn how to shut his mouth sometimes or reword what he's about to say. I was raised in a certain area where certain words are not to be used in public or towards people. But I didn't know right from wrong back when I was a kid, and sometimes it bleeds out, and I'm ashamed of it. And it's not an excuse at all. And like I said, Renner and Captain America should have known better. They should have, even if they were just joking. You don't do that at a junket. You just don't. But I don't think that makes them misogynists at all.
But do you think they deserve to be criticized, though? Because here's the thing.
They deserve to be called out, but they don't deserve to be called anything other than that. Just they had a lapse in judgment.
Well, what I didn't like, and maybe this is part of the reason why the creepy vibe from Renner is in full force. His apology was kind of a non-apology because he said, "I'm sorry that people were offended by what I said about a fictional character."
Yeah, that's not a.
Yeah, that's not an apology, okay? And that's the thing that I got from almost all the men I know is that, she's not even a real person. But she's real on the screen, and she's a representation of a woman, and representation matters, you know. And so when we characterize them as being something that we think has a negative connotation to it, that matters, and they should be called to the carpet for that, you know, because I'm tired of like, oh, well, it's no big deal or this or that. If we keep saying that every time, nothing will ever freaking change. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of people shaming women, and the thing is, she shared a kiss with him. How is that even slutty? They didn't even get busy in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, they shared one kiss, and then she threw him off a cliff. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean,
that's such a chick thing to do. Crazy chicks.
I don't understand how people think it's okay to be so dismissive, because to me, you know, you have to call people to the carpet because people look up to them whether they like it or not, and they're representing these characters, especially in the case of Captain America, who are very wholesome, you know, and you just can't do that. You can't make remarks like that and shame women for their sexuality, even if she's fictional, because you know what I'm saying, it doesn't matter if she's fictional or not.
Yeah, Peggy Carter would kick Steve Rogers in the nads for saying something like that. So
the steel-toe boots.
Yeah.
But Renner, I think, okay, when you go to a comedy show and they make sexist jokes or homophobic jokes, like, you know you're going to go see a controversial comedian. He's going to say some stuff. If you're offended by it, you're dumb, because you know that's going to happen. And I think Renner was trying to take that approach. Like, everybody knew we were joking. Don't get so offended. But you're not a comedian, bro. You're an actor. Shut the hell up. Apologize. Say you were wrong. Move on.
He's got a little. I wonder how he'd feel if somebody called his little girl a whore on national television.
Right. He'd come back and tell you, well, she's not a fictional character. She's real. But yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Representation matters. That's why I get so up in arms about bad female characterizations like Amy Pond.
Stop it! Stop it!
We never talked about the destruction stuff.
Ah, yes, we didn't.
We just went on and on and on about everything else and not the destruction.
But yes, Superman and Zod destroying a couple of New York blocks. Horrible. Lifting an entire city and destroying it, no, it's not bad.
The superheroes didn't contribute to that. They were trying to save people.
Superman was trying to stop Zod.
They were trying. They were their focus was mainly on saving people, whereas Superman only saved the people who were like in his way, so he could go punch Zod for the 10 millionth time.
So he should have just sat down and let Zod do whatever he wanted.
No, but he had time to go kiss Lois Lane. He had time to.
Because she's hot.
But not to save more people. Are you kidding me?
He's just one superhero.
He had all the military at his disposal because they were.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. The military was anti-Superman, and you know it. It was very, very firmly established. Now, what would you have him do? Just sit this one out?
No, he can't sit it out. Yes, he has to save people, but he showed no concern. And here's the thing: the only concern he really showed for people was at the very end with the family that Zod was about to kill.
Because they were directly in front of him.
Was that as a vehicle to get him to kill Zod? That was they were an excuse more than him actually showing any kind of concern. And he just didn't. This is completely out of character for Superman.
Okay, hold on. Let me present it to you this way. You, Melissa, just found out you have all these superpowers, right? You just got all these superpowers, and you just found out you're an alien like about a week ago, right? This guy comes down from the heavens with his crew, starts ripping ass, saying that he's going to take over the world, wants to kill you, how do you act?
I don't know, but if I'm Superman, I would.
That's convenient. That's convenient. You don't know. Come on, you're gonna try and save your own hide, man, and you're gonna try and save as many people as you can, but you can't be everywhere all at once.
I realized that, but he didn't seem like he was trying to do that. And Superman, if they knew about his history, I mean, we're talking like 75 years of history here, he would have tried to anything he could to get the fight away from where people are, and he didn't even seem concerned about these buildings he was crashing into.
You're including 75 years of history. You're including 75 years of comic history. That Superman was only alive for like 20 some years. Like he didn't know that history. We're talking about a fictional world. This person just found out he's an alien. He's got all these powers, and there's these people from his old block that are coming to Earth, and they want to destroy you and the Earth. They want to terraform it, killing millions of people, billions of people. So I think a couple of blocks in New York City and a couple of people dying here and there is appropriate to save a planet of billions.
Entire buildings were razed.
Well, okay, now how about this? How about this Age of Ultron movie where the Hulkbuster and the Hulk were kicking ass, and there was people in the way? We saw cars rolling over people. Those were two superheroes.
Yeah, and he's
what excuse are we going to provide for them?
You expect that from Hulk. That's what he does. He smashes. And Tony Stark was trying to stop him to save people.
Yes, and people died, and people got hurt along the way, which is the very same thing that happened with Kal-El.
From Hulk, you don't expect that from Superman.
Oh, you're being obstinate. You really are. See, Iron Man's actions were the exact same actions that Kal-El did against Zod. They're equal. They did the same thing. So why is it bad for one guy and not the other?
No, Superman did not show concern for the civilians.
Yes, he did. He killed Zod to protect civilians.
No, go back and watch when every time he is punching Zod, he punches Zod away from the city.
Yes.
He's always punching away. He's trying to get Zod away. But Zod always pushes him back in there. He's trapped in the box. I know it's really bad and it's really unfortunate, but even Superman can't save everyone.
No, and I'm not saying he should, but he didn't even... the only ones he tried to save were the ones in front of him, like if they were... right in front of him. And here's the thing, okay, like remember when Zod threw that tanker truck full of gas at him? Okay, Superman, in my opinion, would have put it down. Instead, he threw it and let it explode and probably killed some people.
Because he's never done it before. That's his response. If I were to come at you with a punch to the face, what's your response? Duck and punch back. That's an immediate response. This is his first time out fighting anybody that's super enhanced like him. He's going to react that way. If a big old 18-wheel tanker's coming at him, he's going to catch and try to throw it back to defend himself.
Very intelligent character and making him sound like a dumb, brawny guy.
What?
Superman,
No,
part of his superpowers is that he's very smart. You're making him sound like a
that's
dumb...
not a superpower.
Superman? You think Superman is very smart?
No, he's constantly outsmarted by Batman, and being smart is not a superpower. Because if that's true, Lex Luthor is the superpower. Because that guy's an uber genius.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the Hulk or Solomon Grundy, and 10 is Batman or Lex Luthor or Tony Stark, Superman is at best a 6, maybe a 7 on his best day.
I agree.
But he is not an idiot, and you're making him sound like he's just a dumb jock with muscles, and that's all he knows how to
No,
do.
I'm not.
No.
You know what?
Really? So
You throw a shoe at me, I'm going to catch and throw it right back at your face. That's going to be an immediate reaction.
A tanker full of gas, your reaction, if you have superpowers, is to let it explode, to throw it at a gas station where it will explode?
1, it's an object coming at him. 2, he doesn't know that it has gas. He's not what do you call it? He's not God.
I don't know. If someone throws a tanker full of gasoline at me and I put it down, that means he's probably going to pick it up and throw it at me again. I mean, I've dealt with 2-year-olds before. I know this is how things happen. You throw it back at him and destroy it because at least you get the punch in. Yeah, it's bad for civilians. I think Superman would have preferred to not have the collateral damage, but he didn't.
Well, we
So,
would hope. But here's the thing. I just think it was badly scripted. And they put him in
well, that
situations
might be the case.
and made it,
Uh,
you know, it is just, I didn't think it was poorly written. I think that having the people behind the Dark Knight trilogy is the wrong idea for Superman because
I
they're
agree.
in character. They're very different, and that's what part of what makes the Justice League so interesting. You know what I mean? Is that they have opposition between the two of them, and they are the two most popular and powerful of the superheroes. And to they just changed his characterization too much, almost like they want him to fit into Batman's world, and that's just the wrong way to go with him.
I
but
agree with that.
no, I disagree. We don't know much about his further characterizations because this was an origin movie. We don't
And
know where they're going to take it.
Yeah. Well,
they did not flesh him out as a person very much. I mean, the flashbacks, some of them were good, some of them helped, but I feel
They
like
were great.
they went from 0 to 60, like there was no second act. Like half the movie, it's like
Okay, I'll give you that argument. I will. That argument I'll give you because there should have been a better second act than what we had. But yeah, you're right. But I think that was due to the non-linear approach that they adopted for the movie, which I for one loved. I loved how we didn't get a linear approach. That we were able to know Clark Kent by going back in between scenes. I like that quite a bit, but I do agree that there was a middle part that should have been there that wasn't.
there's
it,
part.
stylistically, I think some of it has to do with Zack Snyder. I feel like he's kind of a one-trick pony. He makes things look a lot of really good, but there's not always a lot of substance to them, And I feel like this was lacking in a lot of substance for a character who does have substance. I was just disappointed. I don't know where this Superman, where his head lies, because it's not the Superman I've known. Do you understand? This is not. It's just there's just too many things that are out of character. And what the hell with the church scene? I expect that in Daredevil. I don't expect the church scene just.
It's perfectly within character. He was raised in the Midwest. Have you gone to the Midwest? There's a church like every 5 feet.
I understand that it's Kansas, but I felt like it was just kind of playing up this God thing that it was too literal. It was just stupid. And
Well,
unfortunately
he is a god, though. In the eyes of humanity, he is a god. He's super enhanced. You drop Superman
False
in any
god.
other civilization. He is false god. If you drop Superman into somewhere in the rainforest and he's doing all his Superman-y stuff, they're gonna drop their spears and go full prostrate on him because he's a god. This is the way humanity works.
Oh look, we're boring Andy.
No, I'm just tired. It's not because I just this argument I don't think has any end, and I'm like right in the middle of it because like I both see failings in Man of Steel, but also I'm not that worked up over it. I'm like, it wasn't that great a movie, but you like fouled that one off into left field. It was okay.
I thought it was a good movie.
It was okay. You got a piece of it, but it didn't quite go exactly. It wasn't a home run. It could have been with just like minor course corrections. I'm interested in seeing what they do with Batman versus Superman. Do I think it's going to be amazing? No. But I hope it is. I hope my mind is completely blown away. So I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah.
I'll see, but I don't get like all the hate on Man of Steel because I also don't like I can't think of a single movie that I hate so much that it's like stuck in my craw for like years. where I'm like still like, if I was still going on about how terrible Battlefield Earth was, like,
that was that
I
was a special.
it's so awful. I didn't want to waste my time. I was like, no.
yeah, no,
That-
but it's like one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But I'm not gonna, or like the Matrix sequels. It's like, okay, those happened. I was disappointed by them, but I'm not like, I don't know. I'm I there's too much other stuff for me
I
to
think
like
it's
get worked up about.
Marco and I like to antagonize each other. I think that's
Obviously. Okay, well, I gotta go do some more packing and then probably cook some dinner. So
Cool.
I'll thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week or some other time.
all
All
right.
right, sounds cool.
All right, later.
Later. Bye.